What up, everybody? How you doing? It's a little dark in here today. Mm-hmm. What an incredible view.
Oh, the wind in my hair! It's pronounced etc., not etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lighting seems okay. All right, cool. Kudos to the webcam for its own onboard lighting. Yay. Yeah, we'll get to the peace plan stuff today. Got some impeachment stuff to lead off with. We've got Derek Dieter. He went on with Tucker Carlson. Talk about South Bend and crime in South Bend, the police in South Bend. So we got a lot to talk about today. Plus, I got some announcements as well. All right, here we go.
This is Casey Hendrickson on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel, your breaking news and weather station.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. Want to thank our sponsor, R&B Car Company. Locations in South Bend and Warsaw. R&B Car Company are your used car experts. Go to rbcarcompany.com for today's specials and promotions. Well, let's just go ahead and dive into some of the stuff we heard about impeachment yesterday. We have to lead off with the former Attorney General of Florida, Pam Bondi. I make no apologies for my feelings about Pam. Former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi made the White House case on the Senate floor. I should say at the hearing. It's technically not on the floor. And she started off this way. I'm not going to do the full 30 minutes, but we were sitting here watching her in the studio while she was giving her presentation yesterday on the show. And I just want to go ahead and she's a very effective Attorney General. She was also a really good lawyer. So I just want to go ahead and I want to play for you a little bit from Pam Bondi. And then we're also going to play some Alan Dershowitz today. And then in the 5 o'clock hour, I'll play some different sound bites, okay? So I just want you to kind of listen to how she framed this case. And she framed the case very well because people have to understand something about how the origins of this so-called impeachment scandal with the phone call with Ukraine. The Biden family had been accused of breaking the law, specifically Hunter Biden had been accused of breaking the law long before there was a Donald Trump candidacy. So this isn't something that is brand new. This is something that is old. And it is also something that the Ukrainians were investigating before that phone call ever happened. And again, none of the impeachment articles are actual crimes, and the president hasn't done anything actually illegal. So this is Pam Bondi kind of framing that case early in her introduction as she was giving her thoughts on everything, because I don't think it's called technically a deposition, but this is Pam Bondi.
Members of the Senate, when the House managers gave you their presentation, when they submitted their brief, they repeatedly referenced Hunter Biden and Burisma. They spoke to you for over 21 hours, and they referenced Biden or Burisma over 400 times. And when they gave these presentations, they said there was nothing to see, it was a sham. This is fiction. In their trial memorandum, the House managers described this as baseless. Now, why did they say that? Why did they invoke Biden or Burisma over 400 times? The reason they needed to do that is because they are here saying that the president must be impeached and removed from office for raising a concern. And that's why we have to talk about this today. They say sham, they say baseless, because they say this because if it's okay for someone to say, hey, you know what? Maybe there's something here worth raising, then their case crumbles. Because they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there is no basis to raise this concern.
So Pam Bondi's making the point. By the way, keep my audio queued up, Joe. She's making the point. Look, the Democrats come in here over 400 times. They mention Burisma. They mention Hunter Biden. And they say that the accusations against him are baseless. And she says the reason that they are bringing that up is because if anybody discovers that the accusations are not baseless, their entire premise for impeachment falls apart. Okay? Because again, you can't declare your candidacy to run for office simply to avoid potentially being investigated or a relative being investigated. All right? And that's what some people are arguing that Joe Biden has done. Joe Biden, who has been accused by Ukrainian government officials of taking millions of dollars. His son has been accused of taking millions more. The Ukrainian government officials, including top law enforcement officers in that nation, have accused a prominent American company tied to the Democratic Party, many prominent Democrats, and the DNC of money laundering and stealing money from the Ukrainian people. Okay? Those are accusations that did not originate with Donald Trump Jr., Fox News, any blog, any right-wing anybody. Those come from government officials in the Ukraine. Now, I've said it before. Those government officials could be wrong. Those government officials could not be telling the truth. That is all entirely possible. But you have to investigate. If you call the police because you want to report a crime, the police have to investigate if a crime actually happened. And the Democrats are saying, hey, these accusations against Hunter Biden and now these new accusations against Joe Biden while he was vice president of the United States, which would be a crime to do what Joe Biden did. Hunter Biden may be affiliated with some of the criminal accusations against Burisma. Those predate the Trump candidacy. Those go back to when Joe Biden was still vice president. And if you're saying that we shouldn't at least look into them to make sure that they are innocent, especially since one of them is running for the presidency of the United States, what a pattern the Democrats have had and the media have had on this. Hillary Clinton did break the law, several of them, multiple times. That's a fact. That's indisputable. People still wanted to ignore that and say she should run for president. You point out that, well, look, not only if we did what she did, we would be in prison, and we have examples of people who did far less than her who actually went to prison. One of them used the Hillary defense, by the way. That was the guy who took the pictures of the submarine that he was stationed on, took a couple of pictures inside the submarine, got sentenced to jail time for that. He used the Hillary defense on that. He said Hillary Clinton did far worse. She didn't go to jail. Why do I get to go to jail? So you have these people who are going to jail, going to prison, being convicted of crimes for doing far less than Hillary Clinton did. But beyond that, at a bare minimum, Hillary Clinton would have had her classification clearance revoked. You can't be president of the United States if you can't even get security clearance. And yet people are saying, well, you know what? Orange man bad, and I don't really care who's running against him. I don't want him in office, and I love me some Hillary. But the fact of the matter is Hillary Clinton broke several laws. That's indisputable fact, okay? You might still, your opinion, believe that she should be president of the United States, but the facts are she broke the law, all right? So you've got Democrats in the media during the Hillary Clinton fiasco and scandals excusing law breaking and saying, you're not even supposed to talk about it. She's running for president. Ignore all of the crimes that she's committed. And they're doing the same thing now with the Biden family. So we've got this pattern of behavior now with, again, prominent Democrats and the media in the United States to excuse potential criminal activity by presidential candidates and their relatives. If you type Bill Clinton in there, obviously, you've got the relative angle with the Hillary Clinton campaign. So you have all of these things, and the press just continues to ignore it. And when the Democrats go out there and I'm just going to say members of the press, when senators and representatives go out and they do their punditry in the press, and when you have the actual politicians on the floor of the Senate or the floor of the House at the previous hearings sit there and say, all of this stuff with Hunter Biden is a conspiracy theory. It's been debunked. It's not true. That's the lie. It's not been fully investigated. You've got Ukrainian government officials literally sitting here. They had a press conference. What was it, a week ago? They had a press conference where they said, we keep trying to present new evidence against prominent Democrats for criminal activity and election meddling. And we can't get the Trump administration to give us visas so we can come to the country and present our case in person. Now, like I told you before, I believe that the Trump administration is like, you know what, we're dealing with this right now. And if you guys come over and you give us new evidence, even if the evidence is correct, the Democrats are just going to accuse us of colluding again. And it's just going to restart this entire cycle. And they're going to go, see, look, he's still trying to collude with the Ukrainians, which we know that Hillary Clinton colluded with the Ukrainians. This is another thing. You've got members of the press and you've got politicians running out there and saying it's a debunked lie that the Ukrainians helped the Hillary Clinton campaign. 2 Ukrainians were convicted of helping the Hillary Clinton campaign. They were convicted in a court of law in the Ukrainian country. Okay? They're in jail. To say that it's debunked and that Ukraine didn't interfere in the U.S. elections is a lie. It is a lie that is easily debunked with a 30-second Google search. Beyond that, we have senior members of the Ukrainian government on audio tape admitting they helped both sides in the election, which for the record isn't illegal. Okay? It's not illegal in the United States. Now, those Ukrainians, they were convicted. They broke Ukrainian law. But as far as U.S. law is concerned, you can absolutely get information from a foreign government. That is okay. You just can't promise favors for doing it. So anytime somebody tells you, oh, Hunter Biden stuff, that is debunked nonsense. No, it isn't. And that's what Pam Bondi was laying out the case with. She spoke for almost 31 minutes. I played 1 minute and 40 seconds of it. I'll play some more of the audio here in just a couple of minutes. But in that 1 minute and 40 seconds, she already proved everything the Democrats were saying was incorrect. I shouldn't say she proved it, but she laid out why what they were saying was incorrect and why they were actually saying it. Because once you realize that these accusations against Hunter Biden and Joe Biden are in fact credible because they come from credible people, they come from members of the Ukrainian government themselves, not some dude somewhere who used to be, oh, I don't know, a spy for the British government and is being paid by the DNC to write a dossier. These are actual government officials of a foreign government, a government that we have a treaty with, that we are bound to help them in their criminal cases, especially in the discovery phase, which right now the United States is in violation of because we're not helping them in that case. They keep asking us for it. They've had 2 or 3 press conferences begging the United States to help them with this investigation, and we have not done so. Like I said, I understand why the Trump administration is not, but we're still in breach of that treaty that we have with them. So that's the whole point of what Pam Bondi was pointing out. She's like, they can't tell you that these accusations against Hunter Biden are valid because if anybody comes to the conclusion that they might be valid, the entire premise of impeachment falls apart. The entire premise. The Democrats are saying the accusations don't exist. The accusations against Hunter Biden are not real. They're debunked. This has already been put to bed. None of this is true. And Trump is trying to fabricate it in order to beat Joe Biden in an election. And the moment you erase that with the facts that these predate a Trump candidacy, that this is not the only accusation against him, because he's got accusations coming out of China and other countries as well. Now that it possibly involves monetary benefit to Joe Biden himself, and that these accusations are coming from government officials in the Ukraine, suddenly they have credibility. And if they have credibility, the United States is bound by law to assist the Ukraine in these investigations, and the Ukraine is bound by law to assist the United States in these investigations. And the entire premise of impeachment falls apart. Besides the fact that the 2 articles of impeachment are not crimes. So more on this coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Casey Hendrickson.
News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Your breaking news and weather station.
e-cig works coming out of this break.
Sweet. E-cig works. I have a brand new announcement. Oh, yeah. The thing about the high rises in Miami is I would expect that the high rises in Miami would be the safer buildings because they've been built to withstand severe storms, and if there is an earthquake off of the Solomon Islands and Jamaica and Montego, I would assume that a tsunami would be the concern, and that the high-rise building would be a better location to be in. Well, John Kerry's son is involved. Pelosi's got a relative. Is it her son? They all work for Ukrainian gas companies, and none of them have any oil and gas experience. So, once you start telling people, like, hey, isn't it kind of strange how many of the most prominent Democrats in the country have children who work for Ukrainian gas companies, and none of those kids actually have any experience in oil and gas? Don't you think that's a little strange? And I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that go, yeah, that's a little weird. Maybe one person, I guess potentially two, but when you have 3, 4, and 5 people who've got their kids who work for Ukrainian gas companies, not just gas companies, Ukrainian gas companies, it sure does seem like there's some kind of a systemic issue there, right? It's almost like, hey, you know what? You've been a member of the Congress for a little while now, and I noticed you got a kid and you're looking for something to do, and you know what? Why don't we get in on this oil and gas racket while we pitch that oil and gas destroys the planet?
You can open a new savings account in about 5 minutes and earn 5 times the national average. Banking with Capital One means 5 times the savings to help pay for your perfect honeymoon. Or 5 times the savings toward your family's perfect vacation. It's time to help make your savings goals come true. This is Banking Reimagined. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Terms apply. With endorsement based on FDIC national rates. Capital One and FDIC. Guys, the secret is out. If you want healthy intimacy, your body needs nitric oxide. And now you can boost your nitric oxide production faster than you thought possible with Ageless Male Tonight, the absurdly fast formula from the #1 brand in male enhancement. Just take 1 capsule an hour before romantic activity. You'll get clinically tested.
Hold on, I gotta send a buddy of mine a message. I'm handling some business while I do the show. So, did RV Car Company get Morgan Freeman to do this commercial, or is it like a lookalike? A lookalike. Sound alike. I have no idea what that guy looks like.
E-cig.
That's racist.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. Newstalk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. And word coming through. Thank you to the live stream who's watching on YouTube and Twitch for letting me know about this. We just had the news hit, tell you about the earthquake off of the coast of Jamaica, 7.7. But I guess they've evacuated some high rises in Miami as a result of this. So appreciate that. We're continuing to watch the situation, but as soon as we know more, we'll pass it on to all of you. If you want to watch the live stream, and I will have some special announcements happening on the live stream today. So go to youtube.com/KC the host or twitch.tv/KC the host. And I also have another special announcement involving Naturals CBD lotion. Just got the word today. Just went live today on their website at allnaturalcbd.org. You know how much I love this CBD lotion. Again, it comes in lavender or unscented, 250 milligrams of full spectrum CBD or 500 milligrams. I always recommend just get the 500 milligrams. But you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. Do you know why, Joe?
Why, Casey?
Because they have 1,000 milligrams now.
Oh, boy.
And if it's 1,000 milligrams, I'm all about that. So if you go to allnaturalcbd.org right now, this was just launched today. You can get 1,000 milligram all-natural CBD lotion in unscented right now. Your cost is merely $29.99. Plus, you get 10% off with my promo code. So it's 1,000 milligrams. Now, the 500 milligrams works fantastic, but maybe you feel like you need a little bit more. 1,000 milligrams is a great option for you. And it's, something I keep having to mention this to my wife, too. You can't OD on this, okay? So you don't have to worry about easing into it. You can go ahead and get the 500 milligram, the 250, or even the new 1,000 milligram if you would like. And you don't have to worry about, that tolerance isn't making you sick or anything of that nature, okay? Now, some people don't need 1,000 milligrams. They get minor aches and pains. 250 will do them just fine. And 250 has worked well on some of my stuff. I've grabbed it by accident or when somebody snagged my 500 milligrams, and it works just fine. The 500 seems to work better for me, and I would assume that the 1,000 milligram all-new product over at allnaturalcbd.org is going to work even better. And again, you get a discount by using my promo code KC10. allnaturalcbd.org, promo code KC10. You can also pick any of these up at any local eSigWorks location. Again, my promo code still applies. It is entirely up to you how you get it. I know some people don't want to go into a vape shop on their own, and they're uncomfortable. I get that. You have no reason to be uncomfortable. They are extremely professional, clean places. I absolutely love the one in Elkhart. I go there on a regular basis, and you don't have anything to worry about if you get them locally. But there's some people that, that's not their scene. They'd rather just get it online, and that's okay too. allnaturalcbd.org, promo code KC10, and get the brand new, just released today, 1,000 milligram unscented 4-ounce bottle. All right, 574-2595, 95.3. That's 2595953. We have been talking. My audio is still queued up there. Mr. Yosef, we're talking about Pam Bondi. She gave her statements yesterday as a part of Trump's legal team. By the way, I would like to remind everybody that Pam Bondi is not an old white guy. And I saw a lot of articles that said that Trump's legal team is only old white men. Yeah, she's not. Not even remotely close. I hate to assume, but I wouldn't care either way. So anyway, she went ahead and she opened up in the first 1 minute and 40 seconds of her testimony, if you will, yesterday. And she said, the Democrats don't want you to know that the allegations against Hunter Biden have credibility, because if they do have credibility, their entire case falls apart. This is Pam Bondi continuing with her statement.
But that's not what public records show. Here are just a few of the public sources that flagged questions surrounding this very same issue. The United Kingdom Serious Fraud Office, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State George Kent, Hunter Biden's former business associate, an ABC White House reporter, Good Morning America, ABC, The Washington Post, The New York Times, Ukrainian law enforcement, and the Obama State Department itself. They all raised this issue. We would prefer not to be talking about this. We would prefer not to be discussing this. But the House managers have placed this squarely at issue, so we must address it. Let's look at the facts. In early 2014, Joe Biden, our Vice President of the United States, led the United States foreign policy in Ukraine with the goal of rooting out corruption. According to an annual study published by Transparency International, During this time, Ukraine was one of the most corrupt countries in the entire world. In Ukraine, there's a natural gas company called Burisma. Burisma has been owned by an oligarch named Mykola Zlochevsky. Here's what happened very shortly after Vice President Biden was made U.S. point man for Ukraine. His son, Hunter Biden, ends up on the board of Burisma, working for and paid by the oligarch Zlochevsky. In February 2014, in the wake of anti-corruption uprising by the people of Ukraine, Zlochevsky flees the country, flees Ukraine. Zlochevsky, the oligarch, is well known. George Kent, the very first witness that the Democrats called during their public hearings, testified Zlochevsky stood out for his self-dealings even among other oligarchs. House managers didn't tell you that. Ambassador Kurt Volker explained that Burisma had a, quote, very bad reputation as a company for corruption and money laundering, end quote. House managers didn't tell you that. Burisma was so corrupt that George Kent said he intervened to prevent U.S. aid from co-sponsoring an event with Burisma. You know what this event was? It was a child's contest, and the prize was a camera. They were so bad, Burisma, that our country wouldn't even co-sponsor a children's event with Burisma.
Now, that's just obviously a fraction of what she said. I just let it go about 5 minutes because I could play you this entire 31 minutes of what Pam Bondi had to say. And honestly, I think that there's a lot of people who may be on the fence about this or not really sure, whether or not the defense of the president has a leg to stand on, that would listen to what Pam Bondi has to say and they're going, wait a minute, what? I never heard that. I actually forgot about the Saudi Arabian angle. I spaced on that. Again, this is just one of those stories where there's so many bits and pieces to it. You almost have to simplify it for everybody so they're not super confused. But I'm going to put it in the Daily Show prep today. You need to listen to what Pam Bondi had to say yesterday. And then you need to listen to Alan Dershowitz. And in the 5 o'clock hour today, I'm going to play you sound bites from Alan Dershowitz because he broke this down as really the only way who is widely regarded as the best attorney in the country could break it down. And he broke it down very well. As a liberal Democrat protecting and defending the president of the United States against a very unconstitutional process that is taking place right now. And anybody can say anything they want about Adam Schiff, but Adam Schiff, every time he spoke, was caught red-handed lying to everybody. And he has said things over and over again that had already been debunked, some of which he had already apologized for or claimed, no, it was just satire. Okay, so if him lying about what the president said on that Zelensky call was just satire when he said it in the House, what was it when he just did it in the Senate impeachment hearing? Because he did it again. Was that satire too? Are you supposed to be doing satire when you're in an impeachment trial, Joe? Probably not. We got a lot to cover today, though. So stay with us. Watch the live stream on YouTube and Twitch at Casey the Host. More coming up, 95.3 MNC.
This is Michiana's breaking news and weather station. MNC.
Boy. All right, I'm going to use the restroom. I will be right back.
Lights are flashing and the changes to some things at school bus routes. Monday was expected to be the beginning of changes with routes, but now Southland School Superintendent Todd Cummings says they expect the changes won't be implemented until the next school year. Cummings says collaboration between the board, parents, and the district and bus drivers have led to the decision that everyone feels is in best interest of the students.
Some of the changes will be revisited over the summer as well. A number of complaints were received about the plan changes, the latest in a series of setbacks for the department. Brooklyn Beatty, MNC News.
This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Rich Dennison. President Trump's legal team a short time ago wrapping up opening statements in his defense of the Senate impeachment trial. Deputy counsel to the president, Patrick Philbin, says House Democrats have not proven their case. Their very premise here is power trial is that it's entirely based on subjective, not objective standards, not predefined offenses. Democrats continue their call for witness testimony in the trial in light of new information in former National Security Advisor John Bolton's forthcoming book, which appears to contradict the president's defense. President Trump today unveiling a proposal he says will bring peace to the Middle East. These ancient lands should not be symbols of conflict, but symbols of peace.
Excuse me. Jeebus. All right. Uh-oh. We censoring people again. Hey, Rihanna, how are you? Hey, Brent. Got some new folks. Pretty neat. It was kind of funny, Alex, that you posted about the first on Discord because I've been talking with Buck Sexton about it. Because I was just watching them. Oh, a few months ago, I was just watching Pluto TV, and I'm like, "What is this?" And I was like, "There's Buck." So I sent Buck a message. I'm like, "Why am I staring at your glorious mane on TV right now?" And so I was just chatting. I actually chatted with him about it today. Got a little bit more information about the company and where it came from and what they're planning on doing. So, because they just signed Dana Lash, so very interesting. Yeah. So Valerie has got something. His brother-in-law. That was something that was it Joe Biden's brother-in-law? That got taxpayer money, millions of dollars in taxpayer money for a business thing. Yeah, it keeps coming up.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack. Sure, you can post your job to some job board, but then all you can do is hope the right person comes along, which is why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/search. ZipRecruiter doesn't depend on candidates finding you. It finds them for you. Its powerful technology identifies people with the right experience and actively invites them to apply to your job. You get qualified candidates fast.
So while other companies
What is Comet trying to post?
find you what you're looking for, the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. And now you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/search. That's ZipRecruiter.com.
Yeah, maybe it was his brother, not brother-in-law.
/search.
I don't have it in front of me, but all right. Oh God, that felt good. Huh, really? Interesting. Have you tried spelling it with a K?
Commercial electrical done right. This is Casey Hendrickson.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Do want to thank our sponsor, R&B Car Company. And again, R&B Car Company has great specials on cars, trucks, SUVs, minivans, crossovers, even some motorcycles on the website. Go to rbcarcompany.com for special promotions and offers. Okay, the President of the United States has released his long-awaited Middle East peace plan. And, of course, they're protesting in Gaza. Now, here's the thing, though. I've seen some people, not people, but reporters, because they're not people, I guess. They are talking about, they're protesting the president's peace plan. Well, they were protesting before the plan was released. In fact, they've been protesting for weeks. So they're just ramped up today, but they did that earlier today before the release of the peace plan. So they were protesting before they had any idea what was in it. What was that? Was it the DNC? Who was it that sent out that form letter and they forgot to do the fill in the blank part of the form letter? Was that the DNC? I have to go back and look at that old story. They just sent it out automatically to go ahead and attack Republicans. It was hysterical. But anyway, U.S. President Donald Trump has presented his long-awaited Middle East peace plan. This is the BBC, promising to keep Jerusalem as Israel's undivided capital. That's because it is. Anyway, he proposed an independent Palestinian state and the recognition of Israeli sovereignty over West Bank settlements. All right. So you've got a Palestinian state offer again. Now, they keep telling us that they just want their own state, and every time they've been offered their own state, they have refused to accept the deal. Standing alongside the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, Trump said that his proposals could be the last opportunity for Palestinians. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas dismissed the plans as a conspiracy. I guess you don't want your own state then. I say to Trump and Netanyahu, Jerusalem is not for sale. No, they're not buying it. They own it. technically, you would be the one trying to buy it because it's theirs. It's their always has been their property. Even when it wasn't their property for a short period of time, that doesn't count because remember, according to the Middle Eastern Palestinian argument, you got to go all the way back in history, hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years to define ownership, but you stopped the moment your people weren't on that land and the Israelites were, because they don't count. Let's see. And your deal, the conspiracy, will not pass, he said in a televised address in the West Bank. Well, I'll tell you what's in the actual deal coming up, but like I said, the Palestinians once again have been offered what they keep saying they want, which is their own state, and they are refusing to accept it because of Jerusalem. But, Israel's not going to give up their capital. It really is that simple. It's their historic capital. It was their capital before Palestinian people even existed. Remember, Rome invented the name Palestine. Okay? The Romans did that as an insult to the Israelites. And they named it after an ancient enemy that the Israelites eradicated. So the history on this is quite interesting, actually, if you ever have an opportunity to sit down and go over it. But once again, the Palestinians straight up say, no, not going to do it. No, you're offering us pretty much everything that we want, but yeah, we're not interested in that. So we're just going to keep protesting and blowing things up and attacking Israelis and Americans who visit Israel and that sort of thing. We're just going to keep being terrorists. Why not? We've got more coming up. I'll tell you what's in this deal beyond that right here on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Hendrickson.
Michiana's news channel. Would you like to start the piece? Can I ask what you're calling about, please?
Does your family or group meet regularly for breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Just call the Crime Table to reserve tables for your next gathering.
The Kavanaugh thing. Thank you, David. Couldn't remember what I thought it was the DNC. I just wasn't positive about it.
Not a lot of sunshine ahead over the next 5 days. We'll continue our cloudy stretch and flurries and snow showers today with highs.
Look at that.
It's quiet on Wednesday.
Oh, but it has a space in between.
We'll continue again with the cloudy skies Thursday.
Yeah. I'm a little surprised by that too, Mike. Go figure.
Most of the daytime on Friday is quiet. Saturday, some light snow is expected, possibly expecting some minor accumulation with that, but nothing significant. Highs in the mid-30s. And looking ahead, Sunday into Monday, highs do.
All right, I'll try to get you on there, Brent.
Have you seen the video of the Palestinians trying to burn the picture of Trump and Netanyahu? And there's 1, 2, 3, looks like 4, 3, maybe 4 lighters trying to burn the picture. God. All right, here, I'll put it in the live stream. There you go. Enjoy.
Looking to get your business off to a fast start in the new year? It's go time. Switch to Comcast Business today. Fast, reliable internet on the nation's largest 6-speed network. Automatic internet backup to keep you connected even if the power goes out. And cloud-based security so you can protect all your connected devices against new threats like phishing and malware. For a limited time, we're extending our amazing offer. Get started now with 75 megabit internet for $49.95 per month for 2 years, and you'll have a voice mobile line and sign up for digital billing and auto pay. Plus, get double the rewards with a $200 prepaid card when you make the switch. Kick your year off the right way with fast, reliable internet for your business. Hurry, this amazing offer ends soon. Call 1-800-501-6000.
12 guys to burn one photo. I like our chances. No kidding. I just retweeted it and said, even their lighters are third world.
It's the last game of the season. It's been fun-filled, record-setting, and action-packed. There's only one fitting way to end it. DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook.
Why is Bloomberg shaking this dog's muzzle? What is he doing?
biggest game of the year with the American-made DraftKings Sportsbook app. Head to the app right now and check
Wait,
out
was
all
Bloom?
the
Who was the one who dropped the
football squares. Download the Sportsbook app
Oh
and
God,
use code WTRC. For a limited time,
it's not
all
Gopher.
new users can get a
What the hell is that animal that tells
$1,000
us if winter's gonna go away?
WTRC.
Groundhog.
Sign-up bonus up to $1,000 only at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Was that Bloomberg who dropped it?
Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet.
No, De Blasio did it. De Blasio is the one that dropped the groundhog.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-9-WIN-IT. Hi, this is Dwayne Miller with Good Faith Management, and I buy
Bloomberg did get bitten by the groundhog, though.
for a fair price. Call me at 574-294-56.
The groundhog that De Blasio... So, the groundhog bit Bloomberg, De Blasio dropped the groundhog, and the groundhog that De Blasio dropped, I don't know if it's the same one, died.
I'm not a realtor or associated with any realty company. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy even more. Call me at 574
Staten Island Chuck.
5678. I buy
Oof,
inherited houses,
that ain't right.
divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my
Children's
tenant
DVD
rent
aisle.
houses. You
One of
want a
them's
house that
Happy
is
Tree
trash and
Friends.
needs thousands of dollars repaired? Great, because I
It sounds like a kid's title.
Oh yeah, it looks like a kid's show, but it sure ain't.
She's just trying to do her job, man. Little old lady who works there. She's not trying to do any harm.
She's stupid.
Yes, yes, she is.
Want the latest and greatest deals in Michiana sent straight to your phone? Then text the word deals to
I don't know. It's always summer in the desert. I mean, except at night. It gets cold at night, and during the day it's warm.
2020, My Deals Michiana Text Club members will receive exclusive.
I don't know, and I'm too lazy to open the stories.
Just text the word deals to 45364 to sign up. Once again, that's deals to 45364. We'll text you later.
All right, here we go. What was I talking about?
Israel.
Oh, yeah.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I'm your host, Casey Hendrickson. Don't forget, you can watch the live stream by going to youtube.com/Casey the host. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel while you are there. If you like anything that I do, just subscribe. Also, give it a thumbs up while you're there as well. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. I don't care. Just thumb it somehow. If you're on Twitch and you like the Twitch platform, you can also follow me or subscribe on Twitch at Casey the host. And we're just talking about the Middle East peace plan that the president and president of Israel, Netanyahu, have released. Of course, the Palestinians are protesting, although they were protesting before they knew what the deal was. And they continued protesting afterward, and the president, Abbas, dismissed it, even though they were going to get their own country again. So here's what some of the proposals are. The U.S. will recognize Israeli sovereignty over territory that Mr. Trump's plan, says is part of Israel. And the plan includes a conceptual map that Mr. Trump says illustrates the territorial compromises, that Israel is willing to make. So again, Israel's always willing to give up some, but they retain the rest. And I want to remind everybody that Israel used to be a much smaller country until they were attacked. So if you don't want to lose territory to a neighbor, don't invade them. Or make sure you win the war. I mean, there is that. The funny part about it is the Palestinians keep running around and going, Israel stole this land from us. It's like the illegal immigrants and the Aztlan movement and things like that going, the U.S. stole this land from Mexico. No, we won it fair and square. And it was a conflict that we didn't even start. So the map will more than double the Palestinian territory and provide a Palestinian capital in eastern Jerusalem. See, they're still getting a capital in Jerusalem. All right? Where Mr. Trump says the U.S. would open an embassy. So not only is Palestine going to be its own country, they will be a larger country than they are now, what landmass-wise. I know they're not a country now, but I'm talking about landmass. And they will have a capital in Jerusalem, and the U.S. will legitimize it by putting an embassy there. They've turned that down. The Palestinian Liberation Organization, the PLO, said Mr. Trump's plan would give Palestinians control over 15% of what is called historic Palestine. Yeah, but historic Palestine was invented by Rome. Historic Israel is way larger. Jerusalem will remain Israel's undivided capital. Both Israel and Palestinians hold competing claims on the holy city. The Palestinians insist that Eastern Jerusalem, which Israel occupied in the 67 Middle East War, be the capital of their future state, which Trump said, okay, cool. An opportunity for Palestinians to achieve an independent state of their very own. Let's see. No Palestinians or Israelis will be uprooted from their homes, suggesting that existing Jewish settlements in the Israeli-occupied West Bank will remain. And again, if you didn't want to lose the West Bank, you shouldn't have started a war you lost. Israel will work with the King of Jordan to ensure that the status quo governing the key holy site in Jerusalem, known to Jews as the Temple Mount and Al-Haram al-Sharif to Muslims, is preserved. So Jordan runs the religious trust which administers the site right now, and they would continue to do that. All right. So basically, you have a third party making sure that the religious claims by both religions and both sides are respected. Territory allocated to Palestinians in Mr. Trump's map will remain open and undeveloped for a period of 4 years. During that time, Palestinians can study the deal, negotiate with Israel, and achieve the criteria for statehood. So, the deal laid out gives Palestinians the state that they want, gives them more land than they have now, gives them a capital in eastern Jerusalem, legitimizes that capital by putting a U.S. embassy there, also allows 4 years for the Palestinians to look over the deal and make any counter negotiations with Israel about the terms of the deal. And then after that 4 years, or during that 4-year period, Israel's not going to develop on any of those areas that would be ceded to Palestine. And the Palestinians are basically doing one of these things. And on the live stream, I've got my middle finger up. They're saying, no, not going to do it. So once again, the Palestinians have been offered most of what they want, and they're saying, bleep you, we don't want any part of it, because it's all or nothing with them. You know why it's all or nothing with them? Because they want to kill all of the Jews. Brenda, welcome to the program.
Thank you for taking my call, Casey. I wanted to point out something to you. Back when Israel was first declared a state, they were given a charter by the League of Nations, right, which later turned into the United Nations. And the amount of land that they received at that time was very, very large. And it was slowly whittled down because the Arabs pitched a fit, and Great Britain got scared and came in and whittled them down to where Israel practically had nothing. They won back a lot of territory through war, and like you said, if they don't want to lose territory, don't start a fight with somebody.
Yeah, Israel didn't start any of those conflicts. They're the ones that tried to eradicate Israel, and they lost the conflicts, and so Israel felt that they needed a buffer zone.
Especially the Israelites, or the Jewish people. Anyway, the other point that I wanted to bring up was until Israel was made or declared a state, the Palestinians didn't want any part of that land because it was swamp.
Right.
Everybody got sick that tried to live there, except for the Jews. And so the Palestinians went through. They didn't stop to stay. They went through. So back at that point in time, they didn't want the land. But they didn't want the Jewish people there either. But the Arabs came in and said, look, stay there, declare some title to the land, and we'll get these Israelites
And I'm just running out of time, Brenda. But yeah,
but anyway,
okay, I got to roll. Appreciate it. But here's the thing. I mean, I know she loves to just keep going, but this all kind of started. There were people who lived there, obviously, who were Palestinian, but generally speaking, you know, they're the ones that have constantly made the situation worse for themselves, and now they're refusing the best deal that they have had probably in my lifetime. More coming up on 95.3 MNC.
WTRC FM.
And HD1 and HD3.
Niles, South Bend, Elkhart.
Your top stories right now. This is a Fox News alert. Open arguments are over. Mr. Brady.
It's been a week on opening argument.
Pretty much. We need an air horn for when she calls. Yeah. I'm out of time, Brandon. Oh, and another thing. Stop. I'm happy that she's out there listening and she's a regular, but you gotta force her off sometimes. I was out of time. I told her, she kept going. She was going into another thing. I'm like, can't let it happen. I'm down to a couple of seconds. What's up, Brian? How you doing? Thank you for the subscription, Lori. We appreciate that. Well, by we, I mean me, because nobody else actually counts. Do you see that Johnson & Johnson is making a vaccine for the Wuhan virus? Mm-hmm. Hey, didn't I say thumb it? That's what she said yesterday. Is that a thing now? Did I say something in passing and now that's a thing?
Michiana's News Channel at 95.3 MNC.com. I'm Tommy Lee, the MNC News Center. Among our top stories this Tuesday afternoon, 3 911 dispatches from teachers and county for investigations. The investigation concludes on how they handled a call about a van crashing into a retirement home. The crash killed 2 children inside the vehicle, severely injuring their mother and another infant sibling. Officials want to be clear that no one was asked to resign or was fired. The supervisor said the crash the state's longest tenured state representative ever is not going to run for another term. Patrick Bauer has represented South Bend in the 6th District for 50 years, first being elected to the position in 1970. Over the past 50 years, he's held several different roles, including Speaker, Minority Leader, and Ways and Means Committee Chair. Bauer is a graduate of St. Joseph High School and completed his undergrad at Notre Dame. In a statement announcing the decision, he said, it's, quote, been an honor to service the people of St. Joseph County. He also says it's the local interactions with his constituents that he will miss the most. His career also included 33 years with South Bend Schools as an English teacher and administrator. Darren Wright, ABC News. Indiana is considering raising age to get married. A House committee heard horror stories from
How much weight am I down? So I just went back on carnivore just now. I started off January doing it, and then I got off of it there for the last couple of weeks. I'm back on it now, so this is just day 2, back on it. Overall, and I haven't weighed myself here recently since I was off of it for the holidays, but my waist is still about 1.5 inches smaller than when I started, and I'm probably still down about 15 pounds, maybe 10. So that's... When I went down originally, it was nearly 20 pounds, and it was over 2 inches off of my waist. So I'm still, like, I'm wearing a smaller pant size now than I was before I went on it originally, but I did add a few pounds back over the holidays, and I'm just getting back on it right now. If the feed goes blurry, that's probably your bandwidth. It potentially could be mine, but it's probably yours. Just refresh, check your settings. Make sure that your settings are not putting it on a lower resolution, like 480 or something. Make sure it's up there on like 720.
Maybe a new chair or desk or a filing cabinet to get the clutter off your desk. Perhaps you just need to start over. At the Office Barn, you can make it happen with Laurel. You can replace a few items, or the Office Barn can come to you.
Yeah, that Wildwood rally is massive.
May even take away your old desk so you don't have to. Go to the website at theofficebarn.com to see the vast selection of office furniture and various brands like Laurel. You can also visit the 30,000 square foot showroom to see all the options in person. There you'll find a large, dedicated space of Laurel products, as well as other new, scratch and dent and used furniture. It is said that new office furniture can increase productivity by as much as 20%. Imagine that. For an updated, more comfortable, and productive workspace, call or visit the Office Barn and see the Laurel Diamond Dealer showroom. Visit the website at theofficebarn.com for store hours. The Office Barn in Goshen, Indiana. Your Michiana Laurel Diamond Dealer, where if we don't have it, you don't need it.
This is Peter Bonnie's voice. And this is Peter on his motorcycle. Please make your picture off my desk. On his motorcycle.
Little old Adam Schiff. You can't have a fair trial without witnesses.
Look at this article I found about urban planning. They are better on your mind. Progressive helps keep you honest. Get a quote in as little as 3 minutes at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates. Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of pay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Yeah, I didn't even know he had a podcast. Apparently, it's the #1 podcast in the country. It's got more downloads than Joe Rogan.
Your breaking news and weather station.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. In fact, I'm going to log into the text messaging service and see if it's up and working today. Yesterday and last week, we were having some issues with it where it wouldn't update, but like once an hour. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of messages would come through. And I know that they said they were going to be doing some maintenance on the texting service. And this is out of our hands. We don't control that. So I will log back in and see if it is up and running and working today. If you want to send me a text, feel free to give it a go. Or you can just go to the live stream and just go on to YouTube and Twitch, And again, it's youtube.com/Casey the host or twitch.tv/Casey the host. And I would be happy to go ahead and answer your questions there. And there's plenty of people who can answer them for you. Most of the questions other people have answers for, or they'll make sure that I see the question during a commercial break. All right, what do we have here? Okay, let's just go to the People's Republic of California. I ran into this. I thought this was interesting today. We'll have a HOA story in a little bit. A small group of homeowners in Castro Valley, California. That may be the most appropriately named location in the People's Republic of California. They're not happy that they have been stuck with a bill to clean up an abandoned homeless encampment in their neighborhood. Alameda County has demanded that Walsh Property Management pay about $20,000 to clean up the mess that was left by homeless people because part of the camp was on land that it oversees. Okay. So the government wants them to pay $20,000 to clean up a homeless encampment that they themselves would not be allowed to clean up or get the homeless people off of the land. You imagine in the People's Republic of California, if you went and tried to chase some homeless people off of your land, you imagine what the government would do to you with the homeless protection laws that they have there? So you're not allowed to keep them off of your land. You're not allowed to chase them off of your land. And when they do leave, finally, and the government comes and cleans the encampment up, you have to pay the bill for it. That sounds exactly like the People's Republic of California. $20,000. You know, it wasn't $20,000 to clean it up either, even with the purveying wage. To cover the bill, Walsh charged each of the 75 homeowners in its local Lakewood Homeowners Association about $300. The cleanup includes garbage and hazardous waste in the San Lorenzo Creek ravine. Oh, so there's environmental crap that had to come into this. Many of the homeowners are not happy that the cost has fallen on them since they reported the homeless presence to Walsh Property Management a few years ago before so much mess had accumulated. And again, it comes down to these protection laws that they have there. The residents alerted Walsh Property Management, and they didn't do anything about it, said Paul Santer, a spokesman for Alameda County Supervisor Nate Miley. The district includes Castro Valley. The authorities didn't know about it, he says. I don't buy that, but anyway. According to the owner, Ed Walsh, the company was informed that there were homeless people in the area, but not that there was an encampment along the creek bed. Again, I don't buy that. We were told of the homeless in the area. No encampment was noted. Here's the deal. Use your brain. If you have multiple homeless people around in a particular area, there is going to be an encampment. There always is. If there's one homeless person, they will have a campsite. Okay? That's how it always works. This is basic elementary stuff. Anybody who said, I didn't know there's an encampment there, the moment you were told that there were multiple homeless people who were there on the regular, you knew that there was an encampment. Whether anybody actually said it to you, whether you actually saw it, doesn't matter. You knew it was there somewhere. The HOA was not certain an encampment was on their property until August of 2019. They then informed the county of the problem. Okay, so they told the county about it. That's when the county cleared out the inhabitants and told the HOA that it would be held responsible for the cleanup. But the HOA can't. Here's the thing. First of all, HOAs are unconstitutional, and I'll get to that here in just a second again with another horror story from that. You can't expect the homeowners in the HOA to chase the homeless people away, because if they tried to do it, the authorities would get involved and they would likely be disciplined or punished or fined for even interfering. And now, again, they had to go to the authorities. Remember, they had to go to the government. The government then cleared out the homeless encampment because the HOA can't do that on their own. They're not allowed. And now the government is saying, but now it's your fault that this mess is here. Some frustrated homeowners contend that Walsh should have known that the encampment was on HOA property, and I agree, and that his company should pay at least part, if not all, of the bill. And of course, from their perspective, we are paying the bill. The homeowners are just, reimbursing us. This is why I hate HOAs. There's very few good things about an HOA. Regardless, they're totally unconstitutional. Walsh told the Epoch Times on January 28th. By the way, I had a message the other day from somebody going, what do you think of this Epoch Times? They are a fantastic news source, okay? And just the fact that the Chinese government tried to burn down their buildings in Hong Kong tells you how effective they are. They do tend to lean right, but they're moderate right. But they are a very good outfit, and they back their reporting up with a lot of data and a lot of facts. I've been very happy with the Epoch Times over the past several months. Anyway, Walsh told the Epoch Times on January 28th that he has been advised not to speak further with third parties about the issue. However, he had earlier told KPIX News he was uncertain about the property lines. Oh, so the guy who runs the HOA doesn't know anything about the HOA's property lines. Well, that just sounds great, doesn't it? There are no fences and such that would mark where the property line ended, so we were kind of hoping that it was somebody else's responsibility. But you didn't confirm that it was somebody else's responsibility. You chose to neglect your responsibilities as the owner of this HOA company, this management company. That's on you. Sorry, my throat has been messed up for the past several days. Walsh said on camera, unfortunately, this one happened to be on the association's property. It is your job to know the property lines. He admits that he didn't know them. It's your job to confirm whether or not something is on your property lines, and he says he chose not to do that. He was just hoping for the best. This guy needs to be sued by every resident of this development. And they need to sue him for full $20,000, probably more, and then they need another management company. I don't know what the actual contract is with this, but holy moly. The county is not liable to pay the cost of the cleanup, Sanfter said. This is the homeowner. Let's see. Legally, it's the HOA. It's the members who own the 75 homes, but the 75 homeowners are upset because they weren't notified until a few weeks ago when they received a letter from Walsh stating that each resident had to pay $300. So it was a communication breakdown. And let's not forget, they told the HOA that there was a homeless issue a long time ago, and the HOA management firm just decided not to really check into it. Let's see. The HOA is responsible for the common area of land where part of the homeless camp was located, and the property management company didn't do its due diligence in policing the open space and alerting residents, the homeowner said. There are some residents who want the county to pay, but it would be a gift of public funds, he said. It's a sticky situation because we've had people who would dump stolen cars on private property, and it's up to the private property owner to remove them. But with that said, there is a legal component too. And I'm telling you, I don't know what the local ordinances are, but generally speaking, in California, they have so many protections for the homeless that if you are going to try and drive the homeless off of land, you would likely meet the wrath of the government. So there's a little bit of a different angle with that. But regardless, the HOA's management company totally dropped the ball here and now is trying to get the residents to pay $20,000. And that's not even the bad story of HOAs today. Got more coming up. Newstalk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Wondering if...
Yeah, I honestly had no idea about Cruz's podcast. I had no clue, and I saw a thing, I think it was yesterday, that showed that it was downloaded more than Joe Rogan's. I was like, oh, wow, holy smokes. Didn't even know that he had it, and it's this hugely successful podcast, so good for him. I'll start listening to it. We got 63 people watching right now on all platforms, so thank you very much for that. It's a big day for us right now. I feel like I'm having a good show, so thank you. Yeah, texting is down. I'm getting a 504 gateway. Oh, back up a little bit. So it's going to be intermittent, I think. Yeah, all of the messages are over an hour old. So, and that includes contests from the rock station upstairs. So, and look, it's kind of what Alex is saying about Bolton testifying. I'm okay with Bolton testifying. He obviously can't give up classified information. But if Bolton's going to testify, Hunter Biden's going to testify, Joe Biden's going to testify, and Adam Schiff are going to testify. That's only fair. $60. Yeah. Send Pete to California. He'll show him how to clean up the homeless. Holy smokes.
So when someone comes in, we're not trying to, buy this because I need to make my permission for the month or for that.
God, I didn't even know that Nunez had one. HOAs are the devil. And they are totally unconstitutional. They shouldn't be allowed to exist. And the thing is several lower courts have ruled that they're unconstitutional because they are. And it just hasn't been appealed up to the Supreme Court yet.
Satisfy your craft beer cravings. Porters, IPAs, cream ales, and more. Make sure to stop in and try all 100 Honey Ale. It is the pride of the Hive, with $1 of every pint from the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. It's not every day you can enjoy handcrafted beer and mansion. See for yourself. Studebaker Brewing Company is located on the 3rd floor of the historic Tippecanoe Place. Visit the store to make a mention for any occasion. Home to Tippecanoe Place Restaurant. Outsmart escape rooms and Studebaker Brewing. Guests can now experience extended hours in the bar and crafted beer and an all-new menu. Open Tuesdays through Sundays with specials every day and news and bingo on Wednesday nights. Learn more by going to StudebakerBrewingCo.com or visit them on Facebook. Open today for lunch and dinner. Or for when you've got a craving for a great beer. Experience Studebaker Brewing Company. Located at Tippecanoe Place on West Washington, downtown South
Dwayne Miller with Good Faith Management, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and want to sell it fast and for a fair price, call me at 574.
Sorry, I'm just reading something, folks.
5678. I can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. I buy houses in any condition, any price range, and in any location. I am not a realtor or associated with any realty company. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month, and I want to buy even more. Call me at 574-294-5678. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind employment houses. I even buy my tenant will pay me their rent houses. If you own a house that is trash and needs thousands.
I mean, I don't want anybody to testify because they should have proven their case in the House, Susie. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that if Bolton is going to testify, I'd be okay with it as long as you got those other three. So if you really want Bolton to testify, all right, fine. Go right ahead. Alan Dershowitz pointed out yesterday, he goes, even if the allegations in the Bolton draft are true, even if, they don't change anything, just like we said yesterday. It doesn't constitute a crime. It doesn't change the material facts of the case. It doesn't apply to the two articles of impeachment that we are debating right now. Period.
Save big money on all of your home improvement projects now at Menards. Add style and comfort to your home with a new Hunter ceiling fan. Get a 52-inch LED low-profile ceiling fan. It's perfect for large rooms and is available in 4 finishes. Right now, get one for just $79.99 each. Nobody beats our selection of ceiling fans. Plus, our entire in-stock selection is on sale at Menards. Prices get through February 1st. Save big money at Menards.
And you should follow Michiana's Morning News on Twitter. And then follow me at RealKCH on Twitter so I can tell you everything that they got wrong in the morning. 574-25-95-95-3. I'm just joking. Relax. Chill out. I haven't thrown a chair in a couple of days. I've been trying to be on my best behavior lately at the company, and I'm getting the itch to throw things again. So we have a town hall meeting in the company tomorrow. So I will do my best to take my CBD stuff before I get here to calm me down, just so I don't throw things around. All right. 574-25-95-95-3, because I'm sure that there's like one of you out there who still wants to debate contract law with me when it comes to HOAs. Feel free to call. HOAs are unconstitutional. Okay, period, end of story. They violate the Bill of Attainder provisions of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has upheld this in separate cases, and I can get into all of it with you. I'm not going to right now. So I just told you this story about an HOA in the People's Republic of California who didn't do their job, and of course the homeowners have to pay $20,000 because the HOA didn't do their job, okay? Now, Ash Show over the Daily Wire. And again, most of you know that her articles are featured regularly on this show. She is probably my favorite writer right now. She wrote an article on the 24th, HOA bored from hell. Arizona neighborhood threatens to fine residents for critical social media posts. Now, there's a lot of crazy stories about HOAs out there, especially in Nevada and Florida, okay? So if you go to Nevada, you go to Florida, you look at HOA horror stories, you are going to go down a rabbit hole that you have never imagined was possible. There have been veterans who have lost their homes because they were deployed and their grass wasn't the right shade of green, okay? I have had numerous friends who literally, because there was a hot spot on their grass and a tiny little, 2-inch patch of grass wasn't as green as the rest of the grass. That's a fine. That's a fine for something that is naturally occurring. So you know what the fix is for Joe? Any idea what the fix is? You have to spray paint the grass. I am not making this up. You have to spray paint the grass to match the color chart. But when you spray paint a tiny little patch of grass, it doesn't match the natural grass. Guess what that means you have to do? You've got to spray paint all of the grass. Because if you don't, then the grass doesn't look uniform. And yes, and I know, grass doesn't look uniform naturally. Any dead plants, that's a fine. Your light out front, that's a fine. We could go down the whole thing. People have lost their homes because of the color of their drapes. These are real stories that I've covered. They are not constitutional. They should be abolished in their current form. So, here's the story. Perhaps the most critical portrayals of homeowners associations came from the 2006 animated film Over the Hedge, in which the president of the HOA, Gladys, rules with an iron fist over her neighborhood. For the record, I don't know what it is, but in a lot of these HOAs, you get I think it's the person who has zero friends, zero popularity, and they just want to wield power because their ego is very small. And they want to go ahead and make everybody's life an absolute nightmare. And since they don't have their own country and they can't be Hitler himself, they do what they can to mimic him when they are the board president. Our first introduction to the character involves her chastising a resident for not trimming their lawn in accordance with HOA rules, saying the homeowner's charter, which you sign, says the grass is supposed to be 2 inches, and according to my measuring sticks, yours is 2.5. Now, some of you might think that that is some kind of a parody, but it's not. That actually happens, and people are fined thousands of dollars for it, and if they don't pay that fine, they lose their home. Ashley Nerdetchia is the administrator of a private Facebook group called Residents at VVL, which is a reference to Val Vista Lakes community in Gilbert, Arizona. She told ABC 57 that the Facebook page is about bringing that community together. Okay, so a lot of communities do this. You live in a place like we have a Facebook group here for Federated Media. All right, so all of us who work at Federated Media, there's a Facebook group that we can join Federated Media and we can talk with each other about various things. And, you know, it's kind of a way for us to connect with one another, also voice some concerns, pass some ideas on, and address some, you know, potential cultural issues maybe in the company. And it's a good tool, right? And I just submitted my my request to join the group today. So it's been noticed that I have been missed, I am told, on the group. Like anybody cares what I think, but okay. So anyway, this is a common thing with HOA communities that they have these types of message boards. And the idea is that if so-and-so is not doing anything, you can address it in a private group and maybe get it handled without getting the HOA board involved and getting fines involved and that sort of thing. Neighbors can look out for one another. You can let your neighbors know, we're going out of town. Can you please keep an eye on the house? That sort of thing. It's just a way for people to come together, right? Kind of like a neighborhood watch meeting would be. But you have this message forum online to be able to address those issues. The outlet reported that it's mostly filled with people posting about events, lost pets, safety updates, etc. Last year, however, the page became a place for residents to criticize members of the housing board during the elections. It was disagreements about how certain members of the board run the board, where they're spending our money, things of that nature. Now, this is an actual election. For those of you who don't know, this is a real election that happens. They campaign, that sort of stuff, and the residents are the ones who vote for who's going to be on the board and then the president and all of that stuff. So if you have somebody who's on the board who's mismanaging your money and wasting your money on stupid things, okay, you should air that grievance in a forum that that exists for you to air that grievance. So if you got people, there's always people who are active in the community and then people who are passive in the community, right? So the people who are active in the community might know that so-and-so wasted your money giving his cousin Lenny a job that they charge way too much for the community when you could have easily priced that out and sourced it for much less, and therefore the residents would have paid less for the service and got the same result. And so maybe you make that known. I don't think so-and-so is on the up and up here on the board. And then a passive member who might check in with the community semi-regularly might go, wow, I didn't know that. They're wasting my money. Holy smokes, maybe they'll be more involved. And so you should be able to air these grievances. It's an election. If you don't like what somebody has been doing in office, shouldn't you tell people about it? That's kind of how politics works, right? after the elections were held, according to ABC 15, the board proposed a social media policy restricting opinions about the board on Facebook. So the elections happen, and the HOA board says, we don't want anybody to talk bad about us online. Like I said, HOAs are unconstitutional. Obviously, the members of the Facebook page disagreed with the policy proposal. Elections do have consequences, though. The board went a step further, sending Nardecchia a letter from a law office threatening to fine her for the critical social media posts. So the HOA is literally saying that she does not have a First Amendment right to say what she believes about the HOA board on Facebook. So much so that they will fine her for saying it. They are threatening, if I don't remove any content that frames certain members of the board in a negative light, that I will be fined $250 a day. Now, guess what happens if she doesn't pay the fine? They take her house from her. They foreclose the house. They take it from her. She's homeless. That's what happens if she doesn't pay the fine. They are asking me to basically censor the speech of the 650 members that belong to that page. Another resident, Keith Faber, told ABC 15 that he received a letter as well for his posts on the Facebook page and brought up the fact that the board cannot restrict free speech rights on a private social media page. We can't do it on a public social media page either. They can't do it at all. It's improper and they need to address, and maybe there should be some resignations, he said. Like I said, they're unconstitutional anyway. They violate Bill of Attainder. But now you've got HOAs running around, and actually, you can't say mean things about us. If you do, we're going to fine you and take your home from you. So, if you think that HOAs are a good idea, you are 100% wrong. Got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
This is Michiana's breaking news and weather station. MNC.
House fire in St. Joseph County, Michigan, which caused the life of a mother and a child. Officials are still investigating the fire, but they do say 3 other children were able to escape through a window and were treated for minor injuries in Three Rivers Hospital. Fire happened at a home in the 12,800 block of Harbor Road in Davies Township. The garage and the house were involved.
So I spent some time on Minecraft the other day, got some diamonds and some redstone and all that, made some cool stuff, right? And showed my daughter everything that I did and the mine that I made and all of that. And I get a call yesterday right after you left. And my wife is like, your daughter is really upset because she died. She fell in lava and lost all of that stuff that you made her. And because she always dies.
You can turn on keep inventory.
I know, but I think you have to do it at the beginning of the world, right? So I didn't do that, and you lose everything. So anyway, I told her, I was like, don't worry about it because I have enough material to rebuild the stuff that was lost, and really the only thing that matters is the map. But I had gone back like 3 times yesterday before I came into work and said, I'm just going to take this out. She's totally going to die when I'm at work. So I put it in the storage chest. So, such a good call. Saved a bunch of stuff. But, yeah, she lost some of the diamond tools that I made and things like that. Not a big deal. But she thought I was going to be so mad. What she has a habit of doing is she just walks away from the house and gets totally lost. And then she dies at night. And she can't find where the stuff is. So I kept telling her, like, just stay near the house. Well, she did. She just went down the new mine that I created, and she wanted to show Harper the lava, and she walked right into it. Okay, I have not made the big announcement yet. Do you want it now? If you want the big announcement, give me a hell yeah. Because we're going to get Stone Cold Steve Austin today. Otherwise, y'all just keep chatting about whatever you're chatting about. Actually, I'm going to get a drink. All right, you keep coming through with the yeses. I'm going to go get a drink. I'll be right back. Ow! Son of a... I hit that hard, dude.
Yeah, that sounds.
Holy crap.
Don't miss out on the Rocket Mortgage Super Bowl Square sweepstakes. We're giving away $50,000 every score change, touchdown, field goal, even extra point, MPG. Plus, two grand prize winners will win $500,000 back to issues for their dream home. Hurry up and get your square at RocketMortgageSquares.com.
Mamma mia. Dude, I hit that friggin' mic stand hard. Right on my elbow. All right. Here's the announcement. I am going to be doing Tony Katz's syndicated show from 10 to 1 Thursday and Friday. So Tony Katz, who is from WIBC in Indianapolis, he has a morning show there, but he also has a syndicated show from 10 to 1. And I'm going to be filling in Thursday and Friday on that one this week. So stay tuned. I will be live streaming Thursday and Friday, but I'll be doing Tony Katz's show. Now, here's what I don't know. I don't know if the audio is going to work with the setup that we're using. I think it will. It should work the same as right now. So just understand that there may be one of those things where I have to cut out the stream. But I'm going to do my best, okay? Yeah, well, that's only one of the things that's actually happening right now. So I'm extra busy, Comet. Extra busy. Yes, I will be doing my own show too. So I'll do his show from 10 to 1, and then I'll do my show 3 to 6. I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about, William. It's Thursday and Friday. It's only Tuesday. I don't know. Maybe impeachment? No, I have no... Maybe. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about Thursday or Friday. To the best of my knowledge, there's no guest, but I don't know. I don't know. I'll try. I'm still trying to get Mike Braun on. I might try and get Mike Braun. So the French protesters are all wearing Joker makeup.
Eat the rich.
Yep.
When you make the move to a Trilogy senior living community, you'll feel good about your decision. We guarantee it. Visit TrilogyHS.com to find a community near you.
Well, Tony and I have talked about pairing up for a while now. It just hasn't been able to happen, but we are going to we're going to start doing some things. I mean, technically, you can get a 24/7 stream if you just listen to the podcast all the time. All right. I suppose I should probably plan on what I'm talking about. Oh, yeah.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Phone number 574-25-95-95-3 if you'd like to join the program today. Texting is intermittent at best. I was just looking at it, and there was no message that was younger than an hour old, so may not be the best way to do it. But if you would like to send me a message, go to YouTube or Twitch, and you can send me a message there. Most people are on YouTube, but YouTube and Twitch can talk to each other via chat because I pull the chat from both platforms into one thing. So you can see that. But you got a lot of new people today on the live stream. Thank you for that. Had some new subscribers as well. I appreciate that. If you're on YouTube or Twitch, please subscribe to my channel. And if you're on YouTube, hit that like button. It really does help. And feel free to say hi. You know, you don't have to join the conversation the entire time, but at least introduce yourself and say hello. All right, Derek Dieter, of course, local former, is he a former police officer? He's still in the police department. I don't know, but he's a former city council president, common council president. And Derek Dieter went on with Tucker Carlson yesterday. He actually called me the other day to let me know that he was doing Tucker's show, and he was asking if we had studio space that he could use, and we're still in the middle of building it, so we didn't have it. We started building that out. That was actually an idea that I had that they went with. Our engineer is doing it as we speak upstairs. Got a green screen up there and everything, so it's going to be great. We'll be able to do those syndicated hits and the news programming and things like that when I'm a guest, and we'll be able to do that in the media room now upstairs. So it's going to be really cool. Plus, if we have any special guests come in for the music stations who might perform a show or something like that, they can do a little live stream up there. So it's a great idea on my part, and an even better idea for the station to actually put it together and implement it. We're very appreciative of it. Well, company, not the station, but very appreciative of that. Can you cue up my audio, please? So Tucker Carlson had Derek Dieter on the show. They were talking about the South Bend Police Department, and they were talking about crime since Pete Buttigieg became mayor. And, of course, this is something that we are well aware of. I've talked about for many, many, many years. But everybody outside of South Bend, outside of Michiana, is a retired police officer. Thank you. I appreciate that. Everybody outside of Michiana, they're totally clueless about this stuff. And the media who does come to town, they don't bother talking to anybody but Pete and his people and all of his supporters. And this has been a contention and a complaint of mine since the very beginning. They all come to town, they just don't talk to anybody. And it drives me bonkers because you should be talking to other people in the community to figure out what the actual pulse is on the mayor, right? So this is Tucker Carlson talking with Derek Dieter, again, former police officer in the South Bend Police Department, and also the former Common Council president and council member. And by the way, Pete Buttigieg at one point wanted him off the council because he felt that it was inappropriate for a cop to be on the council. So anyway, this is Tucker Carlson with Derek Dieter.
Mayor Pete Buttigieg is one of the youngest presidential contenders in the history of presidential contenders, so he doesn't have a lot to run on except for his mayor, 8 years, his record as mayor of South Bend, Indiana. But did he do a good job? Well, here's one measure. During his 8 years in charge of the city, crime in South Bend surged. In 2012, the year that he became mayor, there were 233 cases of aggravated assault. In 2018, the number of aggravated assaults tripled to 711. What happened exactly? Well, Derek Dieter knows. He's a former South Bend police officer and city council president. He joins us tonight. Derek, thanks so much for coming on.
Hey, thank you. I'm honored to be here, sir.
Well, thank you. So, I'd never hold any executive, mayor, president, governor responsible wholly for crime numbers, but that's a massive rate. That's a rise that's really troubling. What did Mayor Pete do to cause that, or what did he not do to prevent it, or how is he related to that?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. What's going on now that the personnel is at an all-time low of officers on there. 5 officers just went to a neighboring city, including the 2017 Policeman of the Year. 3 more are on their way. People have left at alarming rates, both white and black. So I think it's just the overall kind of nativity that he got into this stuff. You can't read Tally's Corner, expect to know what's going on in the inner city. You really have to experience. And I think since he got off on a wrong foot with the former chief, and it's been kind of downhill ever since then.
But if you're mayor, or if you're any leader, keeping your people safe is obviously the most important job. It's job one. Keeping them from being assaulted. And if they're being assaulted at 3 times the rate, then there's a huge problem. So was he aware of this, attentive to it? Did he try to make it better? What did he do or not do?
Well, I think it's, again, attempting to do things. I think his heart may have been in the right place, but to be honest, I don't think he really knew what to do about it. In 2017, a record 102 shootings occurred. Last year, that record was broke. And already this year, South Bend's had 4 murders and about 13 shootings. So, again, it's a horrific pace that it's on. And I just don't think right now, and in addition to basically throwing the police department under the bus of saying all police work is based under the shadow of racism is not a good way to get in touch with all your officers.
No, it's completely idiotic, and it doesn't help anybody of any color. So I read a story that said that under Buttigieg as mayor, police officers were warned not to fat shame people. What does that have to do with keeping the city safe?
Yeah, I guess you'd have to ask him. I retired in 2014, but I still talk to officers almost daily. I have my own security business, so I'm out there in the community, always have been. And I guess it's just, again, he may have not gotten good advice from people. He has his own idea how to do stuff, and until you've been out on the streets, which I've been out there since the 70s, until you experience that and see it and have anything to do with it, it's really, he's not got to the point of what it should be in the city, and it's very disheartening for all the policemen I've known being there and growing up of what it's turned into now.
Very quick, last question. Since you talk to current police officers in South Bend, if they were determining the election, would they vote for Pete Buttigieg for president, do you think?
I can't tell you how they'd vote one way or the other.
Huh. I think we're getting a sense. Thank you so much, Derek Teeter. Great to see you tonight.
Okay, I like it.
Tucker's great. Derek gave a shout out to his boys and everybody. So that was I think we got a sense on how they would vote. Yeah, look, especially if you look at the FOP and how they have reacted to Pete Buttigieg. I think you do have a sense of how the vast majority of the South Bend Police Department will be voting anyway in the presidential election. But there are some people on the police department that like Pete Buttigieg. All right, it's nobody's universally hated, so he does have some of those. And again, one of the things that I bring up to everybody is when former Chief Teachman came into town, and I always point out, I was like, first of all, he was brought in from New Bedford, Massachusetts, and he had already had a terrible reputation with his dealings with the minority community and minority members of the council. Okay, already, right? And nobody in town looked into that. I was the only local media person who contacted the city council president in New Bedford and asked him about some of the reports that I had seen on the show. Not on the show, on the news. And sorry, I was distracted. Joe's asking me a question. So you had the president of the council, and I spoke with him. I was like, so tell me what do I need to know about Ron Teachman? And he says, well, he doesn't have the best reputation with the black community here. He often deals with black members of the council with, I'm paraphrasing, disdain, distrust, unprofessional, that sort of thing. Now, again, you hear these accusations all the time, and you never know if they're accurate or if people are just race baiting, right? And then what happens when Chief Teachman comes to town? One of the first things happens is I basically throat punch him for an hour on PBS about gun control. And then he walks into a local black church wearing shackles. This is the new police chief. Like, what are you doing? What on earth are you doing? And it just went downhill from there, right? So now he's obviously not the chief anymore, but people always leave that little bit of history out, including him not coming to the aid, allegedly, of a fellow police officer, also happened to be a black police officer, hiding in the bathroom, some people said. So there's a whole bunch of very interesting stories about Chief Teachman. And we kind of skip over it, right? We start off with Chief Boykins and that scandal and the police tape thing. We skip over Teachman and we go into what's been happening since. And unfortunately, we miss that huge block of time there where Chief Teachman was in charge. And obviously Scott Ruskowski is now in charge, but Chief Teachman was there. And there's a lot of controversy and scandal that happened under him. So when I mention that to people on national media, they all go, what? It's like, yeah, it's kind of, national media is so far behind on this, as you would expect them to be. But because they're so far behind, you would also expect them to reach out to local media. It doesn't have to be me. I mean, I'm the only one who really opposes Pete Buttigieg here in the media, but it would be nice if they would actually reach out to local media and go, hey, what are some of the other things you can tell us about it? And they just made no attempts to do so. We got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Casey Hendrickson.
News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Yeah, coronavirus is over 4,000. At least 106 are dead. That number's actually lower than I saw last night. So it's doing its thing. I am not wearing a coat. It is a sweatshirt, but it does have some Sherpa inside it. It's brand new, actually. I just picked it up at Costco on the way into work today, and it is very comfortable. Thank you. I was the only person. I was the only person who called him, and he called me back, and he gave me and I went on the air, and I said, look, I talked with the council president in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and I said, we got a police chief that's coming in from out of town. I'd like to learn a little bit more about him. I wasn't trying to attack the guy. I didn't know anything about Ron Teachman at the time. All I was trying to do is because people kept calling me and going, do you know anything about this guy? I said, no, I don't. So I started looking him up, and I started seeing all of these stories about his battles with members of the council in New Bedford and accusations that he might be a racist and everything else. And I'm like, what in the hell? So I called them. And, yeah, it was pretty interesting what they had to say. But I was the only person in the media here locally who even bothered to check out who Ron Teachman was. And what can I say? There is one now. But there are no investigative journalists here in Michigan. There's one now, but he's brand new. Yes, Pete Buttigieg hired Teachman. He looked at several candidates, ultimately decided on Teachman, and brought Teachman in. Yeah, the social score program. Did you notice that Derek Dieter Tucker Carlson referenced the social score thing with the diversity program? He referenced it, talking about the fat shaming thing, but that was a part of that whole process with the social justice warrior type program. Oh. Yeah, so the China thing, I saw or heard today that the U.S. State Department was telling everybody to get out of China while they could. Because, now, of course, you leave China, you've got to be screened. So they're telling people to leave China to avoid a quarantine that they believe is coming over the whole country. While at the same time, those people who are coming out may very well have the virus. And Alex had posted on Discord, CBS News wrote that several people in Michigan had died from the coronavirus, and it was not true. It was a fake story. Michigan now says that they were all clear. There will be people who assume that CBS is right, and they're just pretending that those people didn't die now. Yeah, Teachman is responsible for he left the police department to go work for ShotSpotter. He's actually the local sales rep for them. Is that parody, or is that a true story on the Ninth Circuit? Because it could be either one, honestly. All right, here we go.
news and weather station.
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. We have a lot of great discussions happening during the commercial and news breaks on the live stream. Go to youtube.com/Casey the host. That's CASEY. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you prefer Twitch, you can also go to twitch.tv/Casey the host. It is live streaming on both of those platforms. We also did some major work on our audio live stream. So if you have the MNC app, which is free in your app store, or if you're listening at 953mnc.com, you should have much better experience listening to the audio. Now, if you're listening on like iHeartRadio or something like that, they insert their own ads at various points, which will cut off some segments. So we recommend that you download the free 953 MNC app. To the phone lines we go. Jerry, welcome to the program.
Hey, Casey. I was watching that Dieter interview on Tucker last night. Which wasn't bad, except I was a little disappointed at the end. Tucker served him up a hanging curveball over the plate, and he just kind of watched it sail by when they asked him about how the policemen would be voting. All he needed to say was that the union in this last mayoral election supported the Republican opponent over Pete's handpicked successor. I think that would have made the point.
Well, I mean, perhaps, I think part of it, too, is Dieter is trying to say, I'm not going to pretend to know how individuals are going to vote, rather than looking at it from the FOP's position. And you're right, the FOP abandoned a long tradition of endorsing Democrats, and they endorsed Sean Haas. And they have broken. They've also said, when I had the president of the FOP on, they said, we're probably going to look at not being very political in the future, which might be a good move for them.
Yeah.
Just because you're the police and you probably shouldn't be overtly political anyway. Regardless of how you feel. But also you avoid these things where you endorse somebody who ends up treating you like garbage, like what happened to them with Pete Buttigieg. But, yeah, I mean, I see your point. I think from Derek's point, just knowing Derek for as long as I've known him, I think from his position, he's like, I'm not going to pretend to know how an individual is going to vote. So I think that's just where he was like, I'm not going to tell you, how. But it would have been a good emphasis on the segment had he pointed out that the FOP abandoned their support of his handpicked successor and went with the other guy. And that a lot of those people who left the department that Derek Dieter did a really good job of highlighting, one of the reasons that they left is because, according to my conversations with them and with the FOP, is because they had a feeling, in a sense, that Mueller was going to win. Let's be honest, there hasn't been a Republican mayor since 1972. And he was going to continue the same policies that Buttigieg had, and they didn't trust him as a leader, and they didn't trust his support for the police department. So they left.
Yep. Well, thank you, Casey. Just all I had today.
Sure. I appreciate it. And another thing that you have to keep in mind, too, and it is so much easier to evaluate what somebody does in a television interview when you aren't doing it. Television interviews are very different than having a conversation with somebody, and you forget a lot. Sometimes you got people talking in your ear and in your head. You're given some instructions, and you have time constraints that are very, very tight, even tighter than radio in many cases. So when you're doing those television segments, every time I do a television interview or a segment, I'm irritated that I forgot something. Literally every single time. And even when I get off the air and everybody's like, man, you did an awesome job. You did great. That was fantastic. Holy smokes. I couldn't have asked for better. And I'm sitting here going, well, I forgot like these 8 things. They go, wow, that would have been even better. Yeah, but you just forget. It's a very different environment, and most people aren't used to doing it. So I will say that. I'm going to give him credit. He did very well. Derek Dieter did a good job. I think he pointed out the facts. They were accurate facts. He highlighted some of the migration away from the police department. He highlighted that some of those officers are not white. So I think he did a great job in highlighting some of the issues. Look, the crime issue has been a real problem for the mayor. When you factor in what they have done with the drug task force, and I think the county now has gotten rid of the drug task force, so there's really no local drug task force locally. Okay, well, regular police officers aren't setting up sting operations to get rid of drugs, so you can probably expect there to be an increasing drug issue in St. Joseph County, which is sad. We've got a lot more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
WTRC-FM.
And HD1 and HD3.
Niles, South Bend, Elkhart.
All right, I'm going to be right back.
parties don't define a specific offense. Democrats are still pushing for new witnesses, especially former National Security Advisor John Bolton. A decision on witnesses expected later this week, but tomorrow, questions begin.
This is how it'll work. You'll have the Republicans pose a series of questions, then you'll have the Democrats pose a series of questions. They will toggle back and forth hour by hour. Chief Justice John Roberts told everyone, he said, I want to keep these answers limited to 5 minutes.
Fox's Chad Pergram on Capitol Hill. Meantime, President Trump unveiling the White House plan for the Mideast peace while acknowledging the inherent difficulties. It's a proposed two-state solution.
Erg. I think this is the most popular stream I've had in a little while. Lots of people have been watching all day. I'm very thankful for that.
But U.S. Health Secretary Alex Azar says they can still prepare and respond.
All right.
U.S. cases remains at 5, and all of those patients have traveled in China. America is listening. Fox News.
Kill my audio, please.
White House Democrats dedicate every press
Trying to find a very specific bit of audio.
This is a threat, an imminent threat to the national security of our country, for which the president's entire structure of government was designed to repudiate. Justice Curtis then reviewed the other provisions of the Constitution that relate to impeachment. First, he started with the provision that says, the President of the United States shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons, listen now, for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. He cogently argued that if impeachment were not an offense against the United States, was not based on an offense against the United States, there would have been no need for any constitutional exception. He then went on to a second provision that's thrown around by partisan supporters of this impeachment. As Judge Starr pointed out, they had the weight of authority. They justified the impeachment specifically of the president. The framers understood this, and so they got down to the difficult business of enumerating and defining its provisions. But he certainly cannot be cited in favor of criteria to require criminal-like conduct not by itself constitute an abuse of power. Consider the following hypothetical case that is in our news today as the Israeli Prime Minister comes to the United States for meeting. Let's assume a Democratic president not want to expand that law to include interchange, vote for the other candidate, find a candidate who it's not a crime. The indictment would be dismissed because dishonesty is a sin and not a crime, even if the indictment includes a long list of more specific acts of dishonesty. Nor can impeachment be based on a punching. I urge the senators to ignore these epithets and to consider the arguments and counter-arguments on their merits, especially those directed against the unconstitutional of our past and to our future. Hamilton predicted that impeachment would agitate the passions of the whole community and enlist all of their animosities, partialities, influence, and interest on one or the other. The Senate.
Imagine you are very long.
I respectfully urge you not to let your feelings about one man, strong as they may be, to establish a precedent that will undo the work of our founders, injure the constitutional future of our children, and cause irreparable damage to the delicate balance of our system.
I think the job of a person in between, there's a number of things we do, but I think the most important thing we can do is walk the client through
For the protection of the constitutional and procedural rights of
Richard Nixon, who I personally adore, and he was impeachment I personally favor. And as I stood for the right to build a company, who I admire, and who was impeachment
Michiana's News Channel. Would you like to talk to
I
Casey?
stand against the application
You guys
and
have to help you.
misapplication of the constitutional criteria in every case and against any president without regard to whether I support his or her parties or policies. Constitutional issues raised by these arguments.
All right. Come on, you. It's not font. It's my eyes are burning today, and I'm trying to get the timestamp on a small video. So my eyes have just been on fire all day. I don't know if it's a allergy thing or dry eyes or what. I didn't put my drops in today, so that's probably it.
So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack. See why 4 out of 5 employees who post their job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
All right, here we go.
Is Casey Hendrickson on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's News Channel, your breaking news and weather station.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's News Channel. I am your host, Casey Hendrickson. Want to thank our sponsor, R&B Car Company. Again, they have a bunch of used cars, trucks, SUVs, minivans, crossovers, even some motorcycles. Go to rbcarcompany.com. And again, check out the latest promotional offers that they have available for all of you. All right, so impeachment. My audio queued up. Yosef, all right, earlier today, we did talk about, well, actually, I played you some audio bits, and I talked about what former Attorney General of Florida, Pam Bondi, she had some very good points earlier today about impeachment. She brought it up about Burisma and Hunter Biden and why the Democrats are going out of their way to lie to you, that the accusations against Hunter Biden are a hoax, they're not real, they're debunked, because they're not. They're all credible and they're ongoing, and they don't come from Trump. They don't come from Rudy Giuliani. They don't come from some blogger somewhere. They don't come from Fox News. They don't come from Casey Hendrickson. They come from higher elements of the Ukrainian government in both parliament, law enforcement, and the executive, okay? So those are all real charges that need to be investigated, especially since we have a treaty with them that requires our cooperation. And right now we are in violation of that treaty, and I think the president is not going along with it just because if the Ukrainians do get visas, as they have requested, they do come to the United States, as they've requested, and they do present their evidence against Hunter and Joe Biden, as they have requested, even though they made a lot of that evidence public. If that happens, the Democrats and the media are just going to go through this whole collusion thing again, and it's going to be a whole other deal that the president has to deal with. So I do understand why they're delaying all of that. But from the Ukrainian perspective, the Ukrainians are like, hey, $7 billion was stolen from us and laundered through a company with very big contacts with the Democratic Party, and money got into the hands of prominent Democrats. That is money that was stolen from us. We have evidence that the Democrats also engaged in election meddling, and we want to present it. So from the Ukrainian standpoint, they have these legal cases that they want to proceed with. And from the Trump, the Trump, not campaign, but the Trump administration standpoint is, okay, but not right now. Because if you do this, we're going to have to deal with that mess on top of all of this other stuff. So let us get through this first, and then let's see what happens. So Alan Dershowitz, widely regarded as the greatest attorney in the United States of America. He's a Harvard law professor. He is a liberal Democrat, and he is a man that I have great disagreements with, but a lot of respect for, always have. When Alan Dershowitz says something, you have to listen to what he says, okay? Nobody's 100% right. Nobody's 100% wrong, but Alan Dershowitz knows his stuff probably better than anybody else in the country when it comes to the law. And Alan Dershowitz is on the legal defense team of President Donald Trump. This is Alan Dershowitz's opening statement. I obviously will not play you the entire statement, but I encourage you to listen to his statement yesterday in the Senate. This is Alan Dershowitz.
Members of the Senate, our friends, lawyers, fellow lawyers, it's a great honor for me to stand before you today to present a constitutional argument against the impeachment and removal not only of this president, but of all and any future presidents who may be charged with the unconstitutional grounds of abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. I stand before you today as I stood in 1973 and 1974 for the protection of the constitutional and procedural rights of Richard Nixon, who I personally abhorred, and whose impeachment I personally favored. And as I stood for the rights of Bill Clinton, who I admired, and whose impeachment I strongly opposed. I stand against the application and misapplication of the constitutional criteria in every case and against any president without regard to whether I support his or her parties or policies. I would be making the very same constitutional argument had Hillary Clinton, for whom I voted, been elected and had a Republican House voted to impeach her on these unconstitutional grounds. I am here today because I love my country and our Constitution. Everyone in this room shares that love. I will argue that our Constitution and its terms, high crimes and misdemeanors, do not encompass the two articles charging abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. In offering these arguments, I stand in the footsteps and in the spirit of Justice Benjamin Curtis, who was of counsel to impeach President Andrew Johnson, and who explained to the Senate that, quote, a greater principle was at stake than the fate of any particular president. And of William Evarts, a former Secretary of State, another one of Andrew Johnson's lawyers, who reportedly said that he had come to the defense table not as a partisan, not as a sympathizer, but to defend the Constitution. The Constitution, of course, provides that the Senate has the sole role and power to try all impeachments. In exercising that power, the Senate must consider three issues in this case. The first is whether the evidence presented by the House managers establishes, by the appropriate standard of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, that the factual allegations occurred. The second is whether, if these factual allegations occurred, did they rise to the level of abuse of power and or obstruction of Congress. Finally, the Senate must determine whether abuse of power and obstruction of Congress are constitutionally authorized criteria for impeachment. The first issue is largely factual, and I leave that to others. The second is a combination of traditional and constitutional law, and I will touch on those. The third is a matter of pure constitutional law. Do charges of abuse and obstruction rise to the level of impeachable offenses under the Constitution? I will begin, as all constitutional analysis begins, with the text of the Constitution governing impeachment. I will then examine why the framers selected the words they did as the sole criteria authorizing impeachment. In making my presentation, I will transport you back to a hot summer in Philadelphia and a cold winter in Washington. I will introduce you to patriots and ideas that helped shape our great nation. To prepare for this journey, I have immersed myself in a lot of dusty old volumes from the 18th and 19th century. I ask your indulgence as I quote from the wisdom of our founders.
Now, what he does at that point is he goes through and he actually quotes the founding fathers on impeachment and what would and would not constitute an impeachable offense, because they wrote actually at great length about it. And what he ends up pointing out is that they believed obviously we have bribery, high crimes, and misdemeanors, but that the founding fathers, when they were looking at the provisions of impeachment, that it had to be something that was done against the United States. Otherwise, it would just be something like undoing an election. Alan Dershowitz had a very powerful moment. I went and tried to find the audio. I didn't have time to get through all of his testimony. I was trying to here in the last news break to find it specifically, but it is in this link here that I am going to show. Alan Dershowitz starts speaking at about 6 hours and 50 minutes or so into the video that I'm going to include in the Daily Show prep that you just heard from, okay? And Alan Dershowitz he goes, let's look at previous presidents who, under the criteria set forth with these two articles of impeachment, would have been impeached with the current criteria that the House team is applying to President Trump. And he started off with George Washington, who refused to hand over documents about various agreements. And he went through all of these presidents throughout history that would have, based on their behavior, been impeached if you applied the current standard that Democrats are trying to apply to President Trump. Now, again, I want to remind everybody that abuse of power is subjective. When you say that somebody abused their power, it doesn't mean that a crime was committed, and there has been no crime here, and it's totally subjective. So that is a phrase that you have to go out there, and Dershowitz went into this, you have to go out there and make that case to the American people at election time, because abuse of power may not be criminal, and it might be completely subjective. So if you feel that President Trump has abused his power, okay. He hasn't committed a crime, though, so you've got to go out there and tell the voters he abused his power, and here's how we say that he abused his power. And then either the American people are going to believe you or they won't believe you. President Obama abused his power a lot. He still got reelected. It's that simple. Well, Casey, the Government Accountability Office says that President Trump did break the law when he withheld those funds. Okay. I disagree with their assessment, and they have been wrong many times. And there's a lot of lawyers who say that what they're saying is wrong. You could read U.S. law, and it would seem to indicate that the Government Accountability Office is wrong. And I would also like to point out that the GAO said that Obama violated the law 7 times. So Obama should have at least been impeached 7 times. But it didn't happen. So when he goes through and he says all of these presidents would have been impeached for this, and he gave the other bit too about the executive privilege. You know, if Congress asks for documents and a president doesn't turn over those documents because they say, I have executive privilege here, I don't have to turn these over, and there's a disagreement between the executive branch and the legislative branch on whether or not executive privilege applies to those documents, you would go to the courts. And the courts would decide if the president does have executive privilege on those documents or if the president has to turn those documents over to Congress. And the president supported going before a court and having them rule on that. The Democrats in the House refused and instead drafted articles of impeachment and said that he's obstructing Congress, which is a crime that does not exist in legal code. So the president has the authority to withhold those documents. Congress doesn't have the ability to demand without opposition those documents. And if there's a disagreement, you go to the courts. And the president said, all right, let's go to the courts and let's see what the courts say. And the Democrats objected to that and wrote up articles of impeachment on it instead. There's no crime here. That's the thing that everybody has to understand. Representative Jordan, again, 4 facts that don't change. We've got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Casey Hendrickson.
News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Well, that's just it, William. It's not admissible. And neither is the Bolton stuff. None of it is relevant. And the idea that you have to talk to John Bolton, you have to talk to John Bolton about this, doesn't mean anything because quid pro quo is not an impeachment article. So there is no quid pro quo. They didn't have any evidence of quid pro quo. This Senate trial is based on the impeachment articles that were presented by the House and voted on in the House. And quid pro quo has nothing to do with that. So, and it's important that everybody remember those facts.
Mm-hmm.
After weeks of delay, the Speaker of the House decided that a trial would finally go forward. I want to see the facts. Track partisan performance from beginning to end. I will be watching, and I don't have any role on the floor of the Senate, but I do have a role in seeking a turn page and bring about a new and better day for the American presidency. News Talk 95.3, your breaking news and weather station.
Hi, this is Dwayne Miller with Good Faith Management, and I buy houses cash. If you own a house and want to sell it fast and for a fair price, call me at 574-294-5678. I can pay cash and close in as little as 7 days. I buy houses in any condition, any price range, and in any location. I am not a realtor or associated with any realty company. I'm a private real estate investor who buys several houses a month and I want to buy even more. Call me at 574-294-5678. I buy inherited houses, divorce houses, behind in payment houses. I even buy my tenant will pay me their rent houses. If you own a house that is trash and needs thousands of dollars in repairs, great, because I love buying damaged houses too. I buy vacant houses, abandoned houses, condemned houses, and foreclosure houses. If you own a house and want to sell it fast, call me at 574-294-5678 for a cash offer today. That's 574-294-5678.
Was Kathy trying to figure out SpongeBob sarcastic fonts? Is that what she was doing? Funny. That's good.
Independent shop and learn you can save some money. Second opinions can save you money in retirement too. Have you taken your retirement plan to
Trump's team has been very effective. They've done their job. They have absolutely done their job.
It's kind of interesting.
so they can spend more time doing the things they love and less time worrying about their financial security? Call 866-482-9559 now and schedule a complimentary visit with our independent team. Howard Bailey. Take control of your financial future. Don't let any fees and unnecessary taxes affect your retirement. Call the Howard Bailey team at 866-482-9559 and get a second opinion.
I always do the friggin' Michael Bolton thing. It's airwave.
Thank you.
Save big money on all of your home improvement projects right now at Menards. Update your bathroom with the Porter Collection from Delta.
I will pass that on.
I think Joe is dying inside over here. What the heck was that about?
Shop info.
Saturday, February 1st. Save big money at Menards.
The president's defense concluding their effort in the Senate impeachment trial.
Next, I'm Brooklyn Beatty.
I'm John Simney. We got you covered during Michiana's Morning News on Wednesday on 95.3 MNC. Oh, by the way, the other big news of the day apparently is that Mitt Romney is drinking chocolate milk. And he's apparently the first senator that they've ever seen drink chocolate milk in the Senate. So that's news, I guess. All right. Casey Hendrickson here, 95.3 MNC. A couple of things regarding the GAO report and John Bolton. Okay, so the GAO report that Trump violated the law, that this is their assertion that he violated the law. This is not the end-all be-all, okay? This is their opinion that he violated the law when he delayed funds to Ukraine. Now, again, if you read U.S. legal code, that would appear to not be true. And if that were true, Joe Biden broke the law a lot more than Trump did. But I digress. The GAO report is irrelevant. The Bolton information is completely irrelevant. There are two articles of impeachment that the House of Representatives voted on. The GAO report has nothing to do with those two articles. The Bolton draft book allegations, which are not validated or confirmed, have nothing to do with the 2 articles of impeachment. The House of Representatives voted on what they think they have as far as impeachment. And they voted for 2 things that are not crimes, and they sent them over there. And quid pro quo was not one of them. So none of the other stuff is even pertinent to the current trial anyway. But they're trying to add it because they're not concerned at all with the law. They're not concerned with the Constitution. They're not concerned with any legalities here. They're concerned because they know how this is going to go. This is the thing. From the Democrats, you have to understand something. They know they're not going to impeach him. It's not going to happen. There is no evidence against Donald Trump. Period. You may not like the man at all, but there is no evidence against him. He has broken no laws that we are aware of. Okay? He's not going to be impeached. He likely wouldn't be impeached. Well, I shouldn't say this. I was going to say he likely wouldn't be impeached even if the Democrats controlled the Senate, but I don't know if that's the case because it shouldn't happen because he didn't commit a crime. But he's also not going to be impeached, not just because he didn't commit a crime, because the Republicans control everything. Okay? So if you are honest about this trial, the president is going to be, he's going to be cleared. There's going to be no removal from office. We're going to go back to day one, and it's just going to be business as usual. The Democrats will try and find something else to impeach him on, and they'll continue this charade throughout the remainder of his presidency, whether it's this term or next term, okay? But they know that they're not going to win this. So what they're trying to do is they are trying to plead a case to vote against Donald Trump in the upcoming election in November. So what they feel they can do is they can bring all of these things that have absolutely nothing to do with the case. They're all hearsay. And then they will be able to go out there and make this case to smear the president on national TV, even more so than they currently do, under the guise of it being official and relevant in some way. All right? That's all this is about. This is a giant campaign rally. This has nothing to do with any actual impeachment, any actual constitutional authority, any actual laws. This is purely a coordinated campaign event. That's all it is. So if they can get evidence from the GAO's assessment, which I believe is incorrect, if they can get evidence of the GAO's assessment added to it, even though it is completely irrelevant to this case, they will do it. Why? Because they think it'll damage the president in November. If they can get Bolton to testify, then they will do so, even though his testimony and what is being alleged has absolutely nothing to do with the current case. And it's funny because Adam Schiff was out there today and he's going, "You cannot have a fair trial if you do not call witnesses." Says the guy that didn't allow Republicans or the president to have witnesses or evidence admitted in the House hearings. Plus, that's not the Senate's job. That's the House's job. And if the House didn't do their job, too bad. Like I said, you can't get to the point where you're at the closing arguments in a trial and say, "Hey, I want to retry this entire case because I totally screwed up." You can't do that. That's not how it works. But that's exactly what they're trying to do. And like I said, it's a giant campaign rally. That's all this is. That's all this is. Yeah, I'll take cold calls. Sure. 574-25-95-95-3 if you want to call. People are asking if they can get on the air with me. Sure, absolutely. 574-25-95-95-3. But it's just a campaign rally. None of this stuff is relevant. The Bolton stuff, it's not even a crime. What is being alleged in the Bolton, it's all hearsay at this point. Highly dubious that Vindman's twin brother, was it Vindman's? Yeah, I think it was Vindman's twin brother, was the guy who apparently leaked them. But at the same time, the stuff that is alleged in the draft of Bolton's book isn't even a crime. So you're sitting there going, okay. So even if it is true, it still has nothing to do with it's not illegal, it has nothing to do with impeachment, nothing. But again, people just want to believe what they want to believe because they don't like the guy. And okay, I guess tribalism is very alive and well. Mike, welcome to the program. Good afternoon.
Hi, Casey.
What's
Mike
up?
Climers. I just want to ask a quick question.
Okay.
How I've learned a lot from you, and I love listening to you, and something's been bugging me.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Joe's coming through a little bit. Sorry.
So I I heard on the radio this morning that if Joe Biden's son is brought to testify, that he's going to plead the Fifth. Well, how come the Republicans never? Why didn't they just plead the Fifth? Why can a Democrat not go to prison? How can they just plead the Fifth? I don't understand that.
Yeah, I'd have to look into it, to be perfectly honest with you, because if Hunter Biden is called as a witness and this isn't an actual criminal trial of Hunter Biden, I don't know that he can plead the Fifth because he's not on trial. So how is Hunter Biden going to plead the Fifth if he's not on trial and it's not even a criminal trial? This is an impeachment trial and he's just a witness. If you're a witness, can't you be compelled to testify?
Oh, okay, because they were making the analogy about that when I heard that there was the person on the radio, to the head of the IRS, how she got off.
Well, I mean, they might, I don't know, they might be right. I'd have to look at it. I don't know enough about it. But the thing is, they haven't allowed any witnesses to come forward for the Republicans yet. That's the issue. So in the House, they allowed no Republican witnesses whatsoever. And then they tried to say that they did allow Republican witnesses, but those weren't Republican witnesses. Those were all Democrat-chosen witnesses, even if they were there on behalf of the Republicans. And the Republicans made this point in the hearings, both in the Intelligence and Judiciary Committees, that you haven't allowed us to call any witnesses or submit any actual evidence. So, and then you got Adam Schiff today going, well, you can't have witnesses you can't have a fair trial without witnesses. But they haven't allowed any witnesses. So there hasn't even been an opportunity for a Republican to claim the Fifth. And I don't know how that would even apply with an impeachment trial versus a criminal trial. To be perfectly honest with you, Mike, I would have to go over it. I'm not an expert on this process. It's an interesting angle.
It just seems so weird today when Joe Biden tells the whole world that I did what we impeached Trump for, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Well, and here's the thing. It's not just that Joe Biden is doing that. They're claiming that, well, that was the official policy of the United States. Okay. Guess who sets the official policy of the United States? The president does.
Thank you.
So the president has the authority to do it. So if Joe Biden was acting under the authority of President Obama, then Joe Biden was authorized to do what he did. And again, President Trump can do the same thing. So like I said, it's this whole thing is hypocritical and laughable. But it's a campaign rally. They know they're not going to win this thing. The president isn't guilty of anything. It's just about trying to manipulate the November results. That's all it is.
Thanks, Casey.
You bet. I appreciate it, Mike. I'll look a little bit more into that if they can actually plead the Fifth. I don't know if they can, but I'll look into it. I appreciate the call, man. We got to roll. We got more coming up on News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
This is Michiana's breaking news and weather station. MNC.
Oh, did Cruz explain this on his podcast? Figures. No, I do not, Frank. I do not have enough truck parking. Sorry. So Cruz says they cannot plead the Fifth? I would assume that they can't, but... Okay, so he'd be granted immunity. All right, cool. I had to laugh a little bit, Alex, about Twitchy today. Because Twitchy, which is notorious, and I love Twitchy, don't get me wrong, but Twitchy is notoriously never Trump. And and they're actually tweeting out a very, very good thread by somebody who is ripping the Never Trumpers as just being upset that they lost power in the party. And Twitchy put this out. I'm like, I love Twitchy, but that is one whale of an ironic post. PlayStation is now sending out order updates for Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah, because they had to delay it a little bit. A couple months. Well, a few months.
Right.
It's never a bad thing. Sure, it'll be fine. Michiana's news channel. I can pass it on to him, but other than the callers that we have now, we aren't going to have time to take it anymore. Alright, thank you.
When you have a panel of, first of all, anything Don Lemon should automatically be ignored. When you have a panel of people on CNN trying to mock Pompeo and Trump supporters as not knowing where Ukraine is, when it's on CNN, who has a long, rich, storied history of getting geography wrong on their display maps. Probably not the best look in the world for that network. Just saying. Well, of course, most won't remember CNN's blunders for two reasons. One, we have very short memories in the United States, and two, nobody watches the damn network. So yeah, you're not going to remember something you didn't see. I wonder if they approved my membership to the Federated Media group page today. And I got to join the page as my page, not my personal profile, which makes it even better. The whole chair throwing thing is just like, it's rising again. It's time to throw some chairs. Because I throw chairs and then things get done. So it's like, that's a lot of that. No! I know a guy who can do all that math in 1 night. Hey, there he is!
And good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel. So, fun fact, okay? Ted Cruz has a podcast. I did not know that Senator Cruz had a podcast.
Well, Casey, he's the Zodiac killer, so of course he has
Yeah,
a
of course.
podcast.
So, but here's the thing. I got to start listening to this because apparently Ted Cruz's podcast
It's all about murderers.
is now, well, he is a former lawyer. Well, I guess technically current lawyer, but apparently it's the #1 podcast in the country to surpass Joe Rogan's podcast for downloads. And I didn't know it. Now, I don't know if that's one platform or if that's universal. I'm not sure, but so I thought that was interesting. Regardless, he's got a podcast that is apparently really good. I'm going to start listening to it. Well, the reason I bring this up is because the last caller, Mike, asked about Hunter Biden pleading the Fifth. And attorney and senator on the Judiciary Committee, by the way, former presidential candidate Ted Cruz addressed this on his podcast today. I didn't hear it, but apparently he said Hunter Biden would be granted immunity so that way he didn't have to plead the Fifth. So technically he could, but he wouldn't. So they would give him immunity so he wouldn't have to plead the Fifth, so he'd be able to testify. So that would be interesting. All right, 574-25-95-95-3. Bob, got to make it quick, though. I'm almost out of time.
Hey, I just wanted to clear something up that you had said earlier. You had said that about Trump being impeached. As far as I knew, Trump's been impeached, and he always will be impeached. And the trial,
no,
the trial is about his removal from office.
No, he's. Here's the thing. Dershowitz answered this a couple of days ago. And here's the thing. We always refer to President Clinton as being impeached. So, yes, people always refer to President Trump being impeached. But as Dershowitz said, if he is cleared in the Senate, then impeachment essentially from a legal definition goes away. But you're right. People will always refer to him as being impeached.
Yeah, I mean.
But as far as actual impeachment is concerned, no, he's not. He's not been impeached.
President Johnson in the 1800s, we still refer to it as impeached.
Sure, yeah. The House voted for impeachment. Yes, people refer to that, but technically, from a legal standpoint, impeachment goes away if the Senate exonerates him. Yes.
So Clinton isn't impeached then?
Well, technically, yeah, technically. All right, I got to roll though. I'm out of time. Appreciate the call. We got more coming up. News Talk 95.3, Michiana's news channel.
Keeping you.
R2D2 noise in the background? I don't know how to hear that.
They got Ted Cruz.
Is he on?
He was on.
Thursday, a little warmer, mostly cloudy with a high of 6. Over the 38 on Friday, cloudy with another chance of some snow or wind mix on Saturday, a high of 36. And Sunday looks fair with highs of 40. ABC 57 First Morning Neighborhood Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tom Cooper. Hey, it's Casey Hendrickson on the drive home. Weekday afternoons, 3 till 6, live and local with my perspective and your opinion about the big issues of the long-term the workday. And at 5:50 each afternoon, it's Bill O'Reilly. The best news talk lineup in Michiana. gets even better. Bill O'Reilly here with the O'Reilly Update. Start the drive home with Casey Hendrickson. Weekday afternoons at 5:50 on News Talk 95.3 Michiana's News Channel. Your breaking news and weather station.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's #1, #2 employee. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's you, Jamie. Don't hang up. We need to hear this. You gotta quit wearing that aviator jacket. Nobody's buying it. I'm sorry you have to hear it from me, but at Progressive, we're all about...
So,
That's why we show our rates alongside
people have apparently started suing Juul for compensation.
Yes, we've covered at least one of them.
I have gotten 3 separate ads.
Have you?
Saying, hey, if you or a loved one were addicted to Juul,
I just sent one of the vaping segments that I did to my agent, and I referenced that case, the first case in there where the kid is suing Juul, and I pointed out that they're modifying Juul to take the illegal THC. So it's not Juul's fault.
Right.
The Juul product has done nothing to anybody, but when you modify it, it's suddenly it's their responsibility for you changing something, which we apply nowhere, absolutely nowhere in any other aspect of our life. If you have a vehicle that has a warranty and you modify your vehicle, the warranty no longer applies. If you have a rifle and you make it an SBR, the ATF still gets pissed at you because you don't have a tax stamp. No, I bought this over the counter. It's factory. This is the retail product. No, it isn't. You heavily modified this. You're in trouble now.
One of my friends who transitioned from cigarettes into Juul with nicotine, she's like, no, I can't. I'm not entitled to it because I smoked cigarettes before and was addicted to nicotine before it. And I was like, interesting. So that case is Juul made me addicted.
Okay. Your choice to use a nicotine version of it is the reason you're addicted. But, hey.
But
you could have
you're
easily
entitled to compensation, Casey.
Yeah, they'll get a couple of bucks, and the friggin' class action people will get millions and millions of dollars. So.
This Saturday at 7:30, one performance only at the Morris Performing Arts Center. You love Pastoral Symphony of Beethoven with the South Bend Symphony. To enable the 95.3 MNC skills,
They're so mad.
Traffic and weather on 95.3 MNC.
All right. Welcome back to the program. So first of all, we've had a really big day on the live stream on YouTube, and I really appreciate that. If you would like to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'm going to have new segments coming where I'm actually going to do some commentary just for YouTube. Go to youtube.com/Casey the host. Please subscribe to my channel there. Make sure you like the videos, give me a thumbs up, that sort of thing. Ring that bell icon so that way you get notifications when I go live. And just because we ran out of time with the last caller, there's a wording issue with the impeachment thing. So the House of Representatives has the sole power to impeach. And therefore, from the House's perspective, if they vote to impeach a president, they're always impeached. Okay. But the Senate tries the impeachment. And if the Senate doesn't convict, then you've been charged but not convicted. So then there's the other argument, the legal argument, which is, well, yeah, you were charged with a crime, but you weren't convicted of the crime, so the crime goes away. So again, it's a word thing. Regardless, we will always there will be a large number of people who always refer to Donald Trump as being impeached, just like we do with Bill Clinton and other presidents in the past. So yes, it's going to be a language thing, but for all intents and purposes, if he's not removed, he's not convicted, he's not been impeached. It's time for Bill O'Reilly and the O'Reilly update here. Oh, wait, I did it again, didn't I? I'm so used to getting out at that. You realize I've been doing that for like 7 years, though? All right, now it's time for Bill O'Reilly. Have a wonderful night.
For 7 years, I've been out at 59.50. And it's like, it's so hard to break that habit. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, any final questions, any final comments before I bounce on out of here? I made that same point, Roland. When somebody says a common phrase and you automatically say it's racist, it's because you're identifying that race with that animal. It's not because the person who said it was. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. So, want to remind everybody again, Thursday and Friday, I will be doing a live stream as long as the audio works, okay? I'll be starting at 10 a.m. because I'll be doing Tony Cat's syndicated show on Thursday and Friday. So I'll be doing that, and then I'll be doing the normal show later on in the afternoon. So I will have long days on Thursday and Friday. Thank you, William. Appreciate it. Well, you can get a sticker to put on your car. I've got a lot of people with the sticker floating around. It's not a full-size bumper sticker, but it's a sticker. What is it, like 3x5, I think, for the large one? Yeah. All righty.
Hour 1, hour 2 we're already in. Hour 3 you're not pairing to anything because the Bluetooth's not on.
Okay. So it's not on IBC. This is his syndicated show. So Tony does the morning show on IBC, and then he does a syndicated show from 10 to 1. So I'm doing the syndicated show 10 to 1. If his syndicated show is on IBC, you'll hear me. But I don't know if it's actually on IBC. I have no idea. I usually have the stickers at like live events and stuff. If you wanna, I don't know, pop by the station, I guess I can get you one. So that will be Thursday and Friday at 10 a.m. Happy. Thursday and Friday this week at 10 a.m. I will be doing Tony Katz's 10 to 1 show. Not the first time I've competed with Rush. I've always done well against him. I'm not too worried about it. It's Tony's show too, so I mean I don't know what his ratings are for his syndicated show in those markets. So I mean I don't know. He's a buddy of mine. He asked if I would help him out. Totally happy to do so. John wants me to ask if Tony can fill in for me. I'll ask, but he does a morning show and then he does the afternoon show, or he does his midday show and then he would be doing an evening drive show. That's a long day. I mean, it's like 10 hours of radio. Oh, no, Tony's great. He does a really good show. It'd be better than a lot of the things that we do. But yeah, that would be a long day, though. Repeat. Right. Why would it air at 11? The live stream is going to happen at 10 o'clock. There you go. The live stream right here, 10 o'clock, Thursday and Friday. And then wherever his show is aired on whatever station it's aired on, because he's aired on several stations, it'll play on that time. But as far as the live stream is concerned, it will happen at 10 o'clock, Thursday and Friday.
You gonna talk about Pete a whole bunch since we can do that?
It depends on if Pete is relevant, I guess. I mean, I suppose I could open it up for people to ask me about it. And, you know, like when I do Fort Wayne, I'll do that. Like, hey, I know that a lot of you have questions. Like, what do you want to ask? And that first day that I did that, a lot of people called.
Thing to do, considering the range you'll have at that moment.
Sure.
Especially on Friday.
Right. No, it will not be on 95.3. We don't have his show on 95.3.
Ready to move on.
Let's see. Project Veritas' new video is interesting. This college football coach who got suspended for answering a survey in the student newspaper. Casey Hendrickson here. A college football coach was suspended for answering a question in the student newspaper. I'll tell you what he said. Wednesday, 3 to 6 on 95.3 MNC. I got my days. So YouTube should send a notification out. Here's the thing about YouTube notifications, though. See, they send the notification out anytime I go live, but they don't send it to everybody. YouTube picks who they send it to. So, if you'll get it, I don't know. But I'm telling you now,
Wednesday, 3 to 6 on
I
95.3
will
MNC.
be doing a live stream Thursday and Friday on YouTube at 10 a.m. Okay? Forget the radio stations it's on and other radio stations you can listen to it on. That's when I will be doing the live stream. As long as the audio works, and I assume that it will work, it should work just fine because the audio just comes from my headphones, but the audio that you hear comes from the headphone jack. But I assume that it will work. And as Tracy said, hit that bell icon if you haven't. Make sure you turn on all notifications. But again, YouTube still picks and chooses, but that is your best chance to get a notification that I am going to be live.
If you're on Discord, you get one-on-one too if you have the Discord app.
Yeah, that's true. If you're a member of Discord, the notifications automatically go through to Discord.
If you have the Discord app, you'll get a notification.
Yep. If you have Discord installed on your phone, you will get a notification. That is guaranteed. Because that comes from my stream software.
And that does it
every single time. 100%.
Casey Henderson.
Alrighty. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, any final questions or comments before I bounce on out of here? Now, look, I know it's a weird time, Alex. So, I mean, if people can be here, great. If they can't, Twitch always notifies too. Twitch is better at notifications.
True.
I mean, Twitch is better at a lot of things, to be honest. Yeah, I haven't watched Trailer Park Boys in a while. Used to really like them, though. All right. Well, you too, Sam. Appreciate it. All right, everybody, you have a wonderful night. I will see you back here, same time, same place, for the live stream tomorrow. Great live stream today. Good conversations, lots of people on there. And for a long time, we were rocking over 60 people, so that's a big improvement. All right, got more going. Well, no, I don't know.
Casey Henderson here.
I need to get out of here, okay? That's what I need to do. I need to go. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so already. Hit the bell icon if you haven't done so already. Make sure you select all notifications. Like, subscribe, follow, repeat, all of that stuff. And we'll see you tomorrow. Have a wonderful night. Okay? Thank you very much.